provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, Triple Sevens, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
On a Football Friday, on Football Frenzy, on Sports by the Book at Studio B. All right, we got everyone got that? Good. I'm Jeff Parles. We're happy to be with you as always. We are ready to roll here on championship weekend in college football, week 14 in the NFL. And I have two of the best ever to do it. Vinny Magliuo, Chris Andrews alongside. Cowboy Chris here today. Is your shirt engraved too? On air, yeah, they said. So I saw our good friend Tom upstairs, who, up at the book. He had his engraved jacket yesterday. It was very, very fancy stuff.
Yeah. Mine too.
Oh.
Mr. Gaughn wants us representing.
No,
hey, listen, this is just a huge week for us, with everything going on here. I mean, it's a huge deal. The hotel's been sold out since last year, really. And we're sold out for a couple weeks, 100% occupancy. So, here I am. I'm representing.
All the awards are given out. All the buckles, buckle presentations are made every night here at South Point. So
it's one of the best events, if not the best event all year here
Great.
at the South Point. And Mr. Gaughn does a tremendous job. And look, to some that may not be used to seeing thousands upon thousands of people in cowboy hats, it may be a little intimidating. Yeah. They're the nicest people.
Talk to anybody,
nicest people.
From the dealers to the people in the mailroom, everybody, they're just so polite and they're so nice.
No, it's
great folk, great event. It's a big event for the city, the entire city.
Yeah.
No rodeo parlay card this year, Chris?
No.
Too soon.
I got roped into that last year, and like I said, after we lost a ton of money, I kept telling I'm going to get charged for this. When you're looking at my margins, I didn't want to do this thing.
Well, speaking of losses for the book,
I told you yesterday not to bring it up, but right away, first thing, boom.
Yep.
Well, first off, it was a heck of a game last night. And we'll start there before we get into all these college games. I thought we saw two of the four best teams in the NFL last night. I know there's still some questions on the Green Bay end of things. They're 9-4. Detroit, look, their record speaks for themselves. Campbell last night rolled the dice on that play at the end of the game and almost collapsed on him. But honestly, an amazing play by Gough where he gets stepped on, still gets the handoff. Montgomery gets 5 yards to set up Bates for the game-winning
More
field
like
goal.
7, I think.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
he made it an easy kick.
Yeah.
More importantly, didn't allow Green Bay to get the ball back.
Yeah.
Game lands 3, game goes way over, and really just a tremendous game all the way
Two
around.
observations I want to start with. Okay, the first thing, Green Bay, they've lost 4 games this year. You see who they've lost to?
Yeah, they lost to Minnesota.
Yeah.
They lost to Philadelphia
Yeah.
and Detroit twice.
Yeah.
That's
So,
four.
I mean-
That's 4 10-win
Yeah.
teams.
So they're right there. I mean, they need to improve a little bit, but not that much, So they're very live. It's like a guy that keeps hitting the ball to the wall. Sooner or later, he's going to get that extra 5 feet, and it's going to be a home run. I don't know if it's going to be this year and the years in the future. The other thing I do want to comment on is I give Detroit a lot of credit for going for it and making it and all, and just the whole mantra of the team. So my question to both you guys, okay, it's like a chicken and egg thing. Are they so good because they go for it all the time and obviously make it a high percentage, or do they go for it and make it a high percentage of the time? Is that what made them so good? You know what I'm saying? It's like, which comes first? Which comes first?
It's a great question. It's a great question.
If you're going to do it with Jacksonville, I don't think it would work so good.
So it's a great question because what was the biggest criticism coming out of the NFC Championship game last year for Detroit?
Help me.
Dan Campbell screwed them because he went for it on 4th down on multiple occasions.
Yes.
That was the narrative out of last year's NFC title game. Last night, if we remember, earlier in the game, which set up a Green Bay touchdown, he did something that I've only seen Brandon Staley do, and that's not a good thing, where you're going for it on 4th and 2 in your own end early in the game, and they stopped Montgomery, and Green Bay cashed it right in for the Kraft touchdown. I think it's a little bit of both, honestly.
Yeah,
I think it's a little bit of both, Chris.
I would maybe agree with you because I can't figure out which is which.
Yeah.
Vinny?
I think I agree with Jeff, and I think you feel the same way, Chris. It is a little bit of both, but here's what contributes to it immensely. They're better than they were a year ago.
Yes.
Because the thing that's on clear display is their depth. I mean, they have so many injuries on defense alone, but then they added they have some offensive injuries too. This team doesn't miss a beat from week to week. Now, I don't know how long they can sustain it, but we all know that first and second team reps are predominant, and those players get the bulk of the work, and that's part of the game rotation. But there's multiple spots on both sides of the ball now for the Lions. We're down to number 3 and number 4. So their depth, I think, if you're the rest of the league, man, it's kind of scary to see that this team can still produce and succeed at the rate that they're doing so with these kinds of injuries.
Well, every wise guy in town was on the dog yesterday.
Yeah.
Now, they wound up cashing because they took 3.5. But their supposition was Detroit, I don't want to say wasn't going to show up, but Detroit was greatly impaired by the number of injuries they had. Yeah. And listen, I mean, we could all look at the final score, but to your point, they were not greatly impaired because of the injuries. They found guys. Oh God, I'll never remember the guy's name. The one linebacker that chased chased Love on that last was a guy who was wasn't even in Detroit until yesterday. Yeah. But they're finding these guys, and my credit, and I'm not, who is the general manager over there? Whoever's the personnel director and the GM is finding these guys.
Brad Holmes is the guy who's in charge of putting the roster together.
And, I'm assuming, I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming Campbell has given him guys, these are the kind of guys we want. Mm-hmm. And he's finding them, and maybe even with, maybe a lack of talent, but if they have the right attitude and they're coachable and have the things that Campbell's looking for, they've plugged these guys in. And, listen, the results speak for themselves.
And it started in the preseason. Let's remember, they lost their kicker before the season even started. And this kid
then they
comes
improved.
in off the USL.
They found a pretty good
the USL, right? Yeah. The guy was a bricklayer, right?
In the UFL, Bates was awesome.
Bates was good, but wasn't he? Who's the bricklayer? Or was it one of the other? I know
who you're talking about.
His job was.
Yeah.
But I mean, this.
Like an actual bricklayer, not like he missed field goals.
No.
Not Charles Oakley.
No, I didn't mean a guy. Not a guy that can't shoot free throws. I'll save that for when we get to basketball. There's plenty of those.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, but really, they've had to make an adjust. They started out. That's a serious adjustment for them because their kicker was so good last year.
No.
Now this kid comes in and they haven't missed a beat.
No, he's been terrific.
He's been arguably the best kicker in the NFL so far this year. And look, we took a little detour today because we have less college games to talk about. But look, this is from betting perspective. Obviously, we know what happened, but these are two teams that are going to be. I mean, Detroit's well on pace. Yeah. They get the first round bye as the 1 seed in the NFC. Now Philadelphia needs to beat them by 2 whole games the rest of the way in order to do that.
And I know Philly has a really easy schedule coming up, but I don't know if they could overcome.
Yeah. But it's okay. It's a good segue, Jeff, because again, as we talked about yesterday, and now we'll get into the college, because what last night did was not just kind of light the fuse, if you will, for NFL Week 14, but these playoff games. Because let's face it, we're going to call them, conference championship games. These are playoff games.
Most of them are, yeah.
Because some of these teams are going to be eliminated, or
it's going to be much harder
or for a difficult, or they're going to eliminate somebly else that's on,
right. I mean, they're playing for seed. I mean, Georgia obviously is the one that stands out. Mm-hmm. If they lose, I mean, I'm pretty sure they're still going to be in, but they have a chance to be a number 1 seed or a 2 seed, I would say. Yeah. Because assuming Oregon wins, and they're only a 3.5 point favorite. Mm-hmm. I mean, you ever watch a Saturday of college football?
3.5 point favorites lose all the time.
They do lose all the time.
Yes, they do.
Before we get into it, just want to check in with the chat. A few names that we recognize who are watching us here today. Our good friend Giovanni in there as usual. Vince Las Vegas. Agent 87 with our saying we look old school today with the video. Yeah, we're in Studio B. We got the old school look to us here today. That's right. John Lerner's in there. He wants you to get a bow tie, a bolo tie, I should say.
Bolo, no.
That's the way you dressed in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I was going to say, but a guy from Long Island would know what a bolo tie would be. A hell of a look.
I could tell you this, John. I know John. God love him, and he's always talking about my attire, which I appreciate. He makes sure that I'm sharp, and my shirts match and with jacket and things like that. But I got stopped on the way in. I had my fedora.
Your fedora, okay.
Which was the Italian cowboy hat. So I just
okay. You can go with the Tom Landry look. It's good.
Yeah, I'll next week. I'll bring it next week.
One more I want to bring up. Our friend, the Honorable Quant Coach.
Oh, he's on. Yeah,
the honorable.
He is honorable.
Yeah,
you might have to appear in front of him someday.
Chrissy, where's your gavel?
I would hope not.
Yeah.
Where's your gavel?
I left my gavel upstairs.
But Chrissy loves the cowboy look today.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so the honorable
good friend,
coach,
our good friend.
Very, very, very smart guy.
Thanks for watching.
By the way, let's give a plug to his book, a terrific book. If you want to know the history of gamblers and. Bookmakers and what's it called? Ball owners and bookmakers, or I might have that backwards. But terrific. Oh, Jeff has it.
I have it.
There it is.
I have it. There you go.
Yeah.
Right there.
We didn't set this up either.
No, I had it. Bookmakers versus ball owners behind the demolition of the U.S. ban on honorable sports betting and bookmaking. There you go. There's the book.
Yeah.
Didn't expect that today, huh? Right?
Yeah. Go to Amazon. Help the coach out. I'm not sure Coach needs the money, but what the hell.
All right, let's get into these games, guys. Also, Radine Hilton there, Roger Long as well, JR from the ballpark. We all appreciate you here today. All right, let's start with the American Athletic. That's first in the rotation numbers. It's not the first game of the night because the CUSA Championship's up first, but that's we don't decide the rotation numbers, guys. Army at home at West Point, Mikey Stadium. I was trying to figure this out. When's the last time Army played a night home game?
Ooh.
Has to have been a while because I don't remember them having a pure night home game.
I remember them having lights.
They do have lights. I do know that.
I'm trying to, that's a good question,
but
Jeff. Somebody may be able to.
Someone in the chat help us out on that because I couldn't find it this week. Tulane comes up after that, really more than anything. Look, they got outplayed.
Yeah,
Memphis outplayed them on Thanksgiving,
They did.
And Memphis. We talked about it last week. Kind of weird, disappointing year. Oh, they're 9-2 now. They're 10-2 and ranked in the college football top 25.
Pretty good, yeah.
Pretty good disappointment.
But I thought they'd be where Tulane is right now. I thought they were. We should have listened to Chris Felica. Told me early on he thought Tulane was the best of the non-Power 5 teams.
And Tulane right now, guys. So this has been a nice little mover the whole week. You opened 3.5, got as high as 6.
Yeah.
And at this current moment, Tulane is a 4.5-point road favorite. Remember, a few of these games are in campus sites. All 3 today are campus site games. So Tulane's a 4.5-point road favorite in the AAC title game with a total of 45.5.
Well, personally, I mean, I like Army a little bit in the game. I mean, I made the number 3, but obviously when it was 6, I would have liked it a lot more. Now we're down to 4.5. It's cutting pretty close, but I still would favor Army a little bit. And I've talked to a lot of people. I've been going over home field advantage for the last couple of years. Actually, Army's dropped a little bit this year, but in years past, Army's had one of the strongest home field advantages of any college team. Now, I think 5 is the most I give. I think somebody had a stray 6 somewhere. I'm not sure who that was, but Army's was up there as a 4-point home field advantage. They're down to 3 now, but that's still, I think that's a pretty decent advantage for a game like this. And we say it all the time. These kids at Army, Navy, and Air Force, just throw them all into a bag. These guys are prepared. They're ready. They're not going to be intimidated. I don't care who they're playing. They could be playing Georgia, Ohio State. I don't care. Those kids are going out there and fighting hard. And I've said it a million times. I'll say it one more time. Glad to have these guys are the ones defending our country. I'm not sure they could always win football games, but I do think this number is still a shade high. Got up to 6. I was shocked at the money that had come in on Tulane. Again, a very, very good team, but I would not overlook this Army squad. And in Michie Stadium, I think they're going to be an awful tough out.
I think what happened to Tulane on Thanksgiving was. I think they just, frankly, got overconfident at being at home, and I think,
agree, Vinny.
I think that. So I think from a coaching standpoint, that's the marching orders. I mean, obviously, they need to win this game to have a chance to go to the playoff, because remember they still have 3 losses, right? So I think that. The support came in initially on Tulane because of a bounce back, we'll call it. But the totals come down a couple of points too, and that tells me that, folks may think that Army can dictate a little bit of the pace, at least a significant amount of it, to where if they can get some ball control, that it'll keep the game under. So. Overall, 2-way, because as Chris mentioned, and you did too, Jeff, being as high as 6 and now back to 4.5, and but the total down a couple of points here. And again, this is a 5 o'clock Pacific start. It's a nice Friday night menu here.
Yeah, you've been to West Point too.
Yes, right? It's beautiful. It's a great
Great
spot.
place.
I had gone through once. I had to pick up my one daughter in Penn State, and we were driving over to see my wife's sister who lived in Rhode Island. I was going through the Hudson Valley. I'd never been there.
It's a beautiful part of the country.
Really nice. I had no idea. And I think we didn't go exactly through West Point, but right around there. Man, it is gorgeous.
Again, I've always said this about New York State. It's kind of amazing where you have the city as its own little thing. Yeah. And then West Point's about 35 minutes. 40 minutes, all traffic dependent from the city. Yeah. Usually more than that, but that New York traffic for you. And then you have that, which is just, the stadium, it's under construction right now. It overlooks the Hudson. It's gorgeous.
It's fantastic.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Great spot.
Setting. By the way, I just will throw this out there. Army's better than Navy this year. I 100% get that.
Yeah.
Tulane played Navy on November 16th. They beat them 35-0. Now, granted, the one big caveat with that is Blake Horvath got hurt on the first drive of that game.
Yes.
So Navy had to play Woodson the rest of the way and was not ready to play in that game. So if you're using that as a part of your handicap, I think you got to take a little bit of a grain of salt based off of the result with the Navy game.
Good point.
What's the Army coach's name?
Munkin, Jeff Munkin.
Jeff Munkin. What's his record since he's been at Army? And I know you have the.
I can get that for you real quick here, Chris.
What is his record? I think.
So Munkin all time is 80-56. That includes his tenure at Georgia Southern. Yeah. Since he's been actually, you know what? No, he's 80-56 at Army. He's 118-72 overall.
That's pretty good. He took over a program that wasn't exactly. We would never dream of having this conversation.
Never.
With that old Army team. But I think even, I I think I had them rated fairly high coming into this year, but nowhere near as high as I have them rated now. I mean,
no one
This is
did.
a good, legit team. This is a good team, and I still kind of like Army. And like I said, if I don't have a particular side in the game, I usually root for the
Service Academy.
the service team. But I think I'm going to have a side in this game. I think I'm going to need Army, so it'll be easy to root for them.
All right, let's go to the CUSA championship game. I'll tell you this: if you had exact matchups going into the year on this, you could have got a nice price on this because Liberty was odds on to win this league going into the year, and Liberty was one of the bigger mid-tier disappointments. Again, Florida State, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State was so bad it looks like Gundy might actually lose his job, as crazy as that may sound to some.
They didn't win a game in the conference.
No, they were 3-0 and they lost 9 in a row.
They lost 9.
Yeah.
But after
beating Arkansas.
Forget about you talk about you talk about recency bias, right? I mean, the guys had a great career there, or a solid career, I should say. But losing 9 in a row and not winning a conference game,
no bueno.
Doesn't bode well.
I'd tell Oak State to be careful, though.
I would agree with you on that,
I'm
Chris.
sure that's
even though he's a guy, I know we off the diatribe here. He's a guy though that I'm concerned in this era of college football with.
well. That's legit.
That is the only thing I will throw out there. I don't know if he fits this mold, even though, hey, Bill Belichick's getting interviewed.
Boy, I don't know about that either.
For college jobs at this point. All right, Jacksonville State won the regular season version of this USA, so they get to host the game against Western Kentucky. This is 4 with the Gamecocks at home in Jacksonville, Alabama. Remember, everyone, Jacksonville State's in Alabama. Jacksonville's in Florida.
Right.
Chris, you opened 3. You got as high as 4.5, and now you're at 4 right now in the Gamecocks.
I kind of like the dog a little bit here. I said, I try to do a lot with home field. Now, I understand it's a little different as a player. But you know what their home field is during the regular season, Jeff, according to my numbers?
I'm going to say a 1.
You're close. 0.
Oh, even better.
Yeah. So, I mean, but I feel I have to make an adjustment here. You got a playoff game, at night. And I mean, they deserve to be a little something. But I thought 3 was a plenty of an opening number as far as giving them the advantage of being at home and supposedly being the better team. And I guess they are the better team, at least according to the conference results. But, again, I think you got a real live dog here in Western Kentucky.
And again, the fact that this game is tonight, right, Chris, is going to definitely help its handle. This is going to get things started. By the way, this is a 4:00 game, 4:00 Pacific time. Support for both teams. It looks like we found the buyback threshold, right, with the dog at 4.5. So if we have to go back to 4.5, I mean, just to try to juice it out some. That's what it's going to be. Not a lot of movement on the total, really. Just kind of holding steady at 58.5.
I'm with Chris. I like the dog here.
With the hook, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even at a solid 4, I think.
Okay.
Anything north of 3 seems okay for me.
I would say, yeah.
I think this is a field goal game. Yeah. Not sure if Western Kentucky wins outright, but it is.
Gives you a little bit of leeway.
It's funny to hear that you have them at a 0 home field because, quite frankly, I would imagine that whole conference is a 0 home field, except for maybe Western Kentucky.
Yeah.
That'd be the only one that I would think. By the way, weird quirk with this: these 2 teams played last week in Bowling Green. Western Kentucky won 19-17. So I know I don't want to speak.
You wonder how much they show. Well, I don't show quite a bit though with that in a close game.
Well,
like
Western
that.
Kentucky had to win to get in,
Yeah.
so they probably showed the whole boat.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak for Alex or Kenny, but I'd imagine that revenge might be on the mind with the Gamecocks here tonight.
And by the way, no guarantee that the winner of this game goes to.
No, I would kind of doubt it.
I don't think the winner goes.
Goes to what?
To the playoff, because not every one of these games.
Oh, this
is impact.
This doesn't impact anything.
No, the 12-team playoff.
Not at all.
But I will say this before we move on. I think the winner of the Tulane Army game should get a slot. That's my opinion here, and I've been saying this for a long time. Under the current guidelines, I'm not sure I could go towards the Western Kentucky game. But this game, I think conference championships mean a lot, and I think this goes back to accentuating what these college. You go to school. I mean, your first order of business should be to win the conference. I mean, in the old days, back then, if you were in the Rose Bowl, you won the Big Ten, you won the Pac-12 or 10, whatever it happened to be at the time. It was a big deal, and then you could leave all the rest up to the voters. But right now, I do believe that these conference championships should mean something. Like you take the NCAA basketball tournament.
Yeah.
Every team has the same thing. They all lost their last game except for one. You win your conference, you're in.
Yep.
And we can't quite do that yet with college football, but I wouldn't mind seeing a scenario where we did.
So you're over the final at large, you're saying.
I'm not talking about the NIT and all that.
Yeah, so you're
stuff,
basically like saying just not instead of like in lieu of the next game we're going to, like in lieu of a 3-loss Alabama or someone like that.
No, but everyone, I don't care if you're, William and Mary or East Carolina, whoever it is, Wyoming, you keep winning until you lose. Yeah. And one team won't have a loss at the end of all this crap,
I think it's going to be difficult if Tulane, let's say Tulane wins and they wind up 10-3.
They're not getting in.
I don't think so, because how do you leave it? Now, I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying, how do you got a 3-loss Alabama team, right?
I understand.
It's hard. Now, what I think, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday, Jeff, I think what's going to happen, Chris, is that at first they're going to look at possibly I don't think they're going to go above 12 teams anytime soon. I think what they're going to do is refine the current 12-team format to maybe there's a reseeding, if you will. But if it gets to more teams, that's where perhaps then these winners do get that.
No, let me clarify.
Yeah, I get
under the current system.
Yes.
Under the current criteria.
Yeah.
I can understand where an Alabama or one of those teams would come in ahead of Tulane. I understand that. I'm saying it should be a different criteria.
Yeah.
That's what
No, I know. I 100% get what you're like. Again, like Army. If Army wins tonight, Army's 11-1.
They might get in if they win. I mean, they might have a better chance. I still have them on my board as a future bet. I mean, you take 5,000-1 on them, but you can bet it.
Unless if something really weird happened in the Mountain
Well, they
West
need a lot of help.
They would need them
everywhere else, right?
They would need.
They would also join the Alabama and et ceteras of the world rooting for SMU.
I will say
A lot of SMU backers.
There's going to be a lot.
That are college coaches right
100%.
right now.
Again, to my point, I'm not sure that, I understand at some point there's some voting and selection, but I think we should absolutely minimize that. And in the NCAA tournament, like if, Montana wins the Big Sky,
they're in,
and they might be 15-15 in the regular season, but if they win the Big Sky, they're in.
Let's go to Dayton, my friend.
Yeah, okay, that's fine, but at least you're in.
No, I get your point 100%.
Yeah, okay.
Did you tell we're bookmakers lobby?
A little bit.
For more.
You want more games to book. I get it.
I want more games.
I get it.
I would love more games. We can have a 64-team college
64 team. I'm
tournament
all
if
in
you
on
want.
that. You know what? People would complain, but I would be all in on that. Why not? Well, the winner of this game, I feel pretty confident that we're about to get to now. The winner's going one way or another, and there's a real chance that the winner. Well, if Boise wins, they're getting a bye.
They're going in. Yeah.
They're getting a bye.
Yeah.
If UNLV wins, you know what? With the right result in Charlotte, they would actually be the one team that roots for Clemson tomorrow, potentially, if they were to win tonight, because then UNLV could end up with a bye instead of Clemson.
Wow, that would be
something else.
Shocking.
It would be something else if that happened. Chris, you guys are 4.5 with Boise on the blue turf. You're at 4 for most of the week until early yesterday. Total's been bet down 2 points. The weather is not much of a concern, just cold.
a little cold, yeah.
So, again,
we had Matt Neverett on Frank's show, complaining about how cold he was. What a Vegas boy!
I was gonna say though, Chris, when it's 45 degrees and windy here, it's every bit as cold as 30 and no wind up there.
I know.
So, this isn't to me of all the games this weekend. This is the most intriguing one because, again, I know power rankings. I don't really have a leg to stand on. I find these two teams to be a more entertaining handicap than tomorrow's Big 12 title game, which is also a play-in game. You talked about Jordan Tyson being out. We'll get to that in a little bit. That's part of the reason why. And we already saw this matchup once this year. And UNLV was the only team to hold Ashton Genty under 5 yards per carry. And Boise still found a way to win the game and cover here in Vegas. There'll be a lot of interesting defensive schemes tonight from Barry Odom and company to slow Genty down and make Maddox Madsen beat them for a second consecutive time.
I still kind of like the favorite here.
I tend to agree, Chris.
Yeah, I think the number is a little light. Again, we're going to talk about home field advantage for a second. And I've actually lowered Boise this year to a 4, which is still very, very
big number.
High. But they're not quite what they were a couple years ago, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But I still think this number is just a little bit light. I made this higher. I thought this should be closer to a touchdown myself.
Well, what we're seeing is laying 4 and taking 4.5, right? So I think so great two-way. I mean, let's Ann loves it. This is her. That's why this is her favorite game. Having to toggle back and forth.
Duke isn't even playing in this game. Okay, all right.
That's what she's a bookmaker at heart. She loves that two-way action. Yeah. But I think, listen, it's a tall order, and again, and Boise won here in Las Vegas too, right? Let's face it. So, two teams that they're not going to surprise each other, and listen, it's probably going to come down to who can protect the ball, who's going to value the ball, and minimize turnovers. Just as an example, right? We saw last night which of the two teams could survive or weather turnovers more. Clearly, the Lions have done that this year. I mean, the greatest example is probably that game against the Texans.
Just but 5 interceptions, that's all.
Also, here, I think, UNLV's got to protect the ball because I don't think they can weather, particularly at Boise, too many turnovers. So turnovers and special teams is probably what it's going to come down to. Total. Are you surprised the totals come down on this a couple of points, Chrissy? I
don't know. I think both these teams might try to play a little conservative. Yeah. Listen, if you have Ashton Jenny, obviously you're going to try to run the ball.
Yeah.
But I think UNLV may try to keep the game under wraps as long as possible. So
I'll say this: the first time around, it landed 29-24, and the game profiled basically right at that number. Yeah. Where both teams were at about 6 yards per play. Nothing overly spectacular, but still solid. Look, I think the point that was just made is 100% right. If there is a big turnover in this game, one way or another, I don't know who will make it. That's probably your loser tonight, more so than anything.
We're getting signaled.
We're getting signaled already. Is Jimmy here?
No, but Ryan's here.
Oh, Ryan's here. Right now at 4 on the number. Do we? Okay, we're good. Ryan said we're good. So
I didn't kick out a plug, did I? Did I pull a wire or something?
4 right now. I like the favorite. I'm with Chris on this game. We saw this matchup in the Mountain West title game last year. Now, I have to preface what I say is the two teams this year are eons better.
Yes.
Way better.
Especially the Rebels.
Boise State had 7 wins going into that game last year. They were a mediocre team that, remember they fired their coach in the middle of last year. Danielson takes over, gets the permanent job, and has done an amazing job. But when this is all said and done, this is a different ball game for UNLV than they've been accustomed to. Yeah, I know they went on the road and beat Houston, but that was in August. They went on the road and beat Kansas in an intimate setting. Yeah, that was in September. We're talking about big boy December football, and Boise State has done this through their program's history.
They have for the last 20 years.
So that fan base has the game in their own building too. I think there'll be a legitimate home field. I think Boise wins by a touchdown plus here tonight.
Give me 1 second for a little diatribe.
Please, go for it.
I have Tulane 1 point better than Boise, and one team. If let's say they both win. One team probably won't make the playoffs, and the other team will probably get a bye.
Yeah,
that's what I find. Where the conference champions, should get an automatic.
Yeah, and I
need to expand the tournament to 16, I guess. But the conference champion, if you win your conference, you should get in.
I have no problem with them. First off, as Vinny said, more games the better, right?
Of course,
But if you expand it to 16, look. At this point, all right, if you keep the CUSA and maybe the Sun Belt out, all right, I get it. But the American Athletics proven that they they can play and hang with big boys. We know Boise State and UNLV can hang with the big boys right now.
Okay, one of the things that they say, you imagine one of these teams, the Sun Belt or whatever, playing a team like Alabama or Georgia.
Let's go, baby. That sounds great.
Okay, wait a second. Have you seen the SEC schedules for like the last 20 years? They have like a West Carolina or something like that in week 11.
Chris, could you imagine the scenario where, like, if Louisiana, we'll take the Raging Cajuns, for example.
Pretty good team.
Let's say Louisiana, in a year where LSU was on, and you ended up with Louisiana Lafayette at LSU in a playoff game.
Oh, come on.
You imagine the reaction if LSU, God forbid, lost that game?
Oh.
Could you imagine?
Well, any one of the. How about Ohio U beating Ohio State?
Exactly. That's my point. Look, I'm all in for. I love this new format. I would love to see more games.
I'd like to see it expanded. I thought it should be 16.
expanded.
Well, I think it should be 16.
I think, and again, let's remember, right? There's going to be a Pac-12 conference.
Yeah, well, that's the other.
Sure,
that's the other
thing that probably will impact that very part of the discussion.
Hey, Wash State was a pretty good team this year, and Oregon State.
Oregon State was much better by the end of the year.
Yeah, Oregon State beat them as a significant dog.
Let's go to the Big 12 championship game. Now we begin the power conference ones where a Pac-12 team from last year is favored to win the Big 12 championship game now, and that's Arizona State, who we all expected to be here, right, guys? The Sun Devils, who were projected 16th out of 16th by the media. I'm guilty of that preseason, guys. We'll take on Iowa State, who was a dark horse going into the year. If things go right, maybe they win 9-10 games. Things went right. They won 10 games. They're here.
But yet they were out of it 2 weeks ago.
They're totally done after they lost to Kansas, 100%. But now here they are. I was stunned that this is the first time Iowa State's ever won 10 games in a season. It's pretty crazy. I know they've had a bad program for most of their existence, but that's still kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But
they've had a long history of bad programs.
Oh, yeah.
They really have.
So Arizona State's a 1.5-point favorite in this game, guys. Yeah. The big note in this one is Jordan Tyson, Arizona State's best pass catcher, over 1,000 yards on the air. His season's over. But Cam Scatterbo has been arguably the best player in the Big 12. That not on Colorado this year, with, of course, Hunter and Sanders, guys. Right now, Arizona State a 1.5-point favorite.
I mean, Iowa State won. You know, I mean, it's again cutting it pretty close, but I mean, to me, if you could find a little bit of value with maybe a plus 110 on the money line, you might even be able to get a little bit higher. I think there's value playing the dog. I wouldn't go crazy, 1 point favorite one way, a 1.5 point favorite the other way, but a little bit of juice going your way with plus 110, or like I said, scout around. You might even be able to get a little bit more. I think there's a little bit of value playing Iowa State in a situation like this.
Well, this game got as low as 1 after the injury, right? And then I think Smith is also not 100% for the wide receiver core for the Sun Devils. Now, I have a power rating where I've got Iowa State a 2-point favorite, but you say, well, why didn't you make them favorite? You look out there and you see what's happening, and it's a neutral. I think there were higher, so Chris hung it lower to begin with because of that too. Mm-hmm. So you have to take that into consideration as well. So you again. Went to 2.5, right? So they actually laid, and it's about current form too. You want to take into consideration who's playing better right now of the two teams. And again, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Iowa State was out of it, but they credit them. They did what they had to do, and some other pieces fell into place.
They won Farmageddon.
And Arizona State. It's been on an absolute roll. They're playing as good as anybody right now.
They played terrific
and scoring points. So those were the reasons for that. But got as low as 1, and then now we're back up to 1.5. So I'm sorry, is that my bottle of bourbon?
Oh yeah, it might be.
There you go.
So I'll just say this from my better perspective here. Bettor. There we go. Just clarifying that as always. I have no idea what the heck to do with this game. No clue.
In game?
I don't even know if that's the case. Well, here's the thing. There's only 2 college games going at 9 a.m. tomorrow. The MAC game, which we'll get to in a second, is the other one, which I have a much better feel for than this one. If you told me Arizona State won by 4 touchdowns, I wouldn't be shocked. You told me that someone's making a field goal at the end of the game to win this game by 2, and the number coming into play somehow. Sure. If you told me Iowa State ran them out of the building, I'd buy it all. Because these two teams, even though I like both of these two teams, there's still young quarterbacks on both sides. Mm-hmm. Levitt is young. Becht is in his second year starting. one of these guys is making a cataclysmic error in this game. I just don't know who it's going to be. But whoever this wins this game, they're either getting a bye if UNLV beats Boise tonight, or they're getting the 12 seed if Boise wins tonight. And that 12 seed is probably going to be a trip to South Bend, which I'll say good luck if that happens to be the case here.
But, listen, we've watched a lot of football. You can win that game, too.
Oh, yeah. Well, look, Notre Dame lost at home to Northern Illinois.
Yeah.
Vinny, how big of a favorite is Notre Dame today against Northern Illinois?
35.
There we go.
I had it 34. Seriously.
All right, let's go to the MAC championship game. This game's always fun. Hey, we know the quality of teams not as good as the power conferences, but these games always deliver at Ford Field.
They're entertaining.
I like their games.
Yeah,
I think
always
they're
fun.
fun. Yeah.
Ohio U against Miami of Ohio was a really bad start to the year for the Red Hawks, but credit to Chuck Martin, and they really rectified things, end up with the number 1 seed in this game as well. Good win on the road against Bowling Green last week to get here. Ohio, you know what? Again, I thought they were going to be down this year. They weren't. They're here. Again, credit to 2 high-end mid-major coaches and 2, really, let's realistically say it, 2 high-end mid-major programs at this point, these 2 programs. Miami, Ohio is a 2.5-point favorite. This is a toggler at 2 and 2.5. Totals moved down a hook from 44.5 to
I think the number's about right. I couldn't beef with either side here. I've always kind of liked MAC football. I think those kids play really hard. What I don't like is a lot of these kids out of the MAC, they're going to be looking for Big Ten. They're going to be looking for an NIL. And, yeah, probably most of them won't wind up at Ohio State or Penn State or Michigan. But you think they can't play for, like, Purdue or Northwestern or Illinois. So I think the way football is constructed right now, and I hope it changes, but the way it's constructed right now, I think you're going to see MAC play drop off in the next couple of years because I think a lot of their best players have an easy access and an easy avenue into the Big Ten. Like I said, not to the biggest boys, but to the rest of the league. And listen, I don't blame them. Sure. First of all, they're going to be getting NIL money, period. Right. Plus, if you have a better chance of making the pros, even if, you're, like I said, you're at Purdue or Illinois or Northwestern, better than being at Ohio U or Miami. You're just going to get a lot more exposure and just more reps against the top flight athletes. So you're going to be better prepared to get into the NFL.
One of the best things that the MAC did was go to midweek games.
Yeah.
And get exposure and being on television. And so people are much more familiar with MAC football and certainly basketball now, but particularly football with making that move. There's going to be support for both of these teams. Now, I think what Chris said is important. It's going to be interesting to see how the conference realignments and the rebirth of the Pac-12, how it's going to impact this conference overall. Even though NIL, I think, I think the transfer portal is going to be impacted by an adjustment with roster sizes next year.
Yeah, smaller rosters.
Smaller rosters. I think the max you can have, believe it or not, is 105. You know Nebraska, just to kind of digress a little, Nebraska has 160 guys on the roster that are on the football program. Now they're not all obviously gonna play every game,
right?
But they're gonna lose about 50 players to the transfer portal.
They only wind up with 100.
So I think there's does that sound right, Jeff? 105 limit.
It sounds right to me.
They've always had a big program of walk-ons.
Now, what happens? How does it impact the MAC and things like that? Again, a little sidebar, but of all the conferences, let's hope this to what we were talking about, where it should be automatic. I would hope that the MAC does get one of those down the road, but it's probably going to take an expansion of the playoff.
For the game, I'll say this: I like the favorite.
Yeah,
I do. I think they're the better football. I think
I don't have an opinion.
Yeah, I thought
I got them both close. It's like basically a pick of the game here, and the game's at Detroit. So
I thought if this came Miami 3, yeah, sure, just short of 3, yeah, makes sense to me. 2 reasonable teams for sure. Lean to the Red Hawks for me in that game. All right, well, this isn't a single window. The only game in that 12:30, 1 o'clock window on Saturday, the Georgia Bulldogs and the Texas Longhorns. By the way, I told this to Vinny yesterday. Bevo not allowed to attend, Chris.
Whoa. I didn't put that in my number. Hang on a
There
second.
you go. Yeah, I figured.
I think Bebo might be at the Thomas and Mack.
Yeah,
Different town. Now that I think of it.
Can you get in there with a microphone, Vinny? See what he likes.
So we saw this matchup about 6 weeks ago, and
Yeah.
let's just tell it how it is. Texas got whipped,
Georgia ran him out of the building.
and
It got close at the end. It was not. It was a more one-sided game than the final score.
It was 31-15 when it was all said and done. Carson Beck did not play well in that game either, and Texas still got ran out of the building in their own place. Yeah. Now, I'll throw this out there, and I'm just curious your thoughts. By the way, the game right now is Texas 2.5. Yeah. We got a good old toggler here.
And two-way action.
Another toggler.
Yeah, Georgia. People betting Georgia at 3. People betting Texas at 2.5. I'll just ask you this with that first matchup, and this is something that we haven't really brought up. We just kind of chalked it up to, well, you know what, maybe Texas isn't fully ready to play with the big boys, and this is just they took advantage of an easier SEC schedule, and that's why they're 11-1 in this game. I wondered, and we made this point at the time, and we kind of forgot about it. I just wonder how much, and it's so weird to say about it with Georgia coming to town. They played Oklahoma the week before. Yeah. That's the biggest game on Texas's schedule, regardless of who. Well, now that A&M's back, maybe not.
Yeah.
But that's always the biggest game for Texas to circle during the year, that game in Dallas.
Yeah.
I just wonder if they vaporized some of their energy in that game against Oklahoma. And this is more what this game should be, a field goal game. Yeah. Even with Georgia kind of having a little, I know it's split, but let's be real. Georgia's going to have 75% of the crowd in this game. Let's be honest with ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I made the number 3, so I don't have a strong opinion. But, I kind of forgot about that Oklahoma situation, Jeff, and I think you raise a very valid point. That's their game.
Yeah.
In Dallas, and, traditionally it's been, 50% of the crowd on each side, and however they divide the stadium. And even though it's in Dallas, it's not a Texas home game. It's always been and it's been a legit neutral field, and it's a huge recruiting game. Now, I guess maybe for a year or two it wasn't with Oklahoma, down a little bit. But now that they're both in the same conference, both in the SEC, once again a monster recruiting game. So maybe that was it.
So, to that point, it was pretty emotional last week at College Station.
Yeah.
So
that's
is
the
that,
other caveat.
I mean,
now.
Okay, there you go. Yeah,
so,
good one, Vinny.
Now you have that mental energy, right, and how and everything that goes with that emotion and things. But let's face it, Georgia. 7 overtimes?
Look,
both of these teams
I was going to say they were
have to be emotionally spent, right? I mean, listen, there's physical energy that you get sapped, but sometimes that emotional and mental energy, can wreak havoc as well. So I think, for both of these teams, they're coming off 2 very emotional wins last week, and hence, obviously the power rating, it gets it there and all, but I could see where there's been support. I understand the support for both sides and playing that the key numbers, and I think it's going to continue that way right up until kickoff. Yeah.
I'm waiting to the last moment on this because
pre-flop
pre-flop
okay.
Because I've been looking at what Georgia's been at 3 this week and being like, well, it's going to act as close to a Georgia home game.
Yeah.
I'm happy you brought up the A&M point because I was going to make that on the back end that, it may be the same deal with the A&M game, first time since 2011. And quite frankly, Texas really outplayed A&M in that game last weekend, especially after the first quarter. But you brought up the point, Chris. Georgia had to go an extra day rest, sure.
Actually, Vinny brought it up.
But the 7 overtime
to beat a big rival.
To beat the in-state rival that, quite frankly, let's be real with ourselves. Georgia Tech blew that game. They should have won that game 3 different times, and they didn't.
And Georgia would be out of this
Georgia
game.
would have to win this game
Yeah.
in order to
Right.
get it.
We almost out of the playoff, yeah.
Yeah, who was it? Joe Test. Was that him that announced the game?
Yeah, Tessitore said it 8 bajillion times.
I know he drives you crazy,
Yes,
but he said it. He did say it 8 bajillion times. Georgia had to win to get in the playoffs, and if they lost, they were
They would have had to win this week.
They
They
would have
would have win this week. But now, if they lose, you know what? If they lose, it'll just be interesting. Where do they get seeded? More so than anything.
What else happens?
All right, let's. So I'm waiting, see if I can get the 3 again. I'll probably take Georgia if we get back to 3. If not, I'm going to wait in game because I want to see how these teams look. Okay. And the other thing is, I like this game under the total, which is the 50. Other way from where it's moved for the exact reasons we just brought up. Maybe this is actually even a first half under, where we just go under in the first half. Also, Georgia's been sluggish early in games recently as well. So that's another thing to keep in mind. All right, let's go to Cajun Field, which is a great name for that, by the way. Louisiana hosting Marshall. They determined this by the computers who would host the game, guys.
Right.
And
this was the last game put up because of where it was going to be played.
So the Cajuns have been bet here from 4 to 6, guys. I can't say I'm surprised that the market's played this way.
I made the number 6.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, opened short, moved it quickly. They've gotten support all week, so just one-way action. I doubt if it's going to come down the ladder the way it went up, right, Chris? I mean, I don't see it getting. They may take the 6, but it's not like it's going to go back down towards 4. That's I don't see that.
One of my
happening.
sharp guys laid 5.5 today, so I don't see it going down.
Yeah.
I'm not touching this. It would have been Louisiana at the earlier numbers. That'd be the only way I look to play this. I think they're the better team. And quite frankly, if they didn't take that loss in conference, they were 11-1 going into this game, hosting with the only loss being a 1-score loss at home to Tulane. They might have had a case at 12-1 to make the college football playoff, the Cajuns. Won't happen now, but they might have had it at 12-1.
I want to tell you, that's been a good program for a while.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of these kids that are on Louisiana. Now, I don't know how the future, they might have access to an SEC team. But these are kids, for the most part, were just not quite up to SEC talent levels and wound up on Louisiana. Yeah. And, you can see that throughout much of the South. Let me just tell you, a lot of those kids are tough.
Oh, yeah.
They're tough kids. And you could see a lot of them. And I did a study recently. Well, I wasn't serious. It was a while ago with my old website. These teams, when they play SEC teams, you see them getting big numbers.
They almost always cover. Yeah.
They cover at an extraordinary rate. So these kids are tough. Yeah. I'm not taking anything away from Marshall, but I did make this game 6.
Yeah, and again, home on the home field is a big advantage. Jeff, this is a game too where if you're looking to bet it and you're looking to go in game, you would hope Marshall scores first.
Oh, 100%, Vinny.
And if you like the favorite, let Marshall score first. Now it could happen the other way, and then the number goes. But then you pass, right? Because, frankly, look, we want people to wager, and they will wager. But the fact of the matter is, sometimes the most important bet is the one you don't make, or you pass and you wait. So
let the herd thunder down the field right at the beginning. I'm in on that, Vinny. That sounds good.
You're okay with that?
Yeah.
There you
give
go.
me Louisiana -2.5, and we're off and running. Let's go. All in on that.
I didn't say we would make it.
No, I'm just telling you what I would do, Vinny. I'm not saying you had to do it.
Let me warn Dougie nothing.
Look, to your guys' credit, all the in-game numbers here at the South Point are made by humans.
Yeah.
They're not named by algorithms.
No.
Those algorithms, I will tell you, will give me a 2.5 in game. I know you guys.
You might get it.
Sure
you might get less.
Yeah,
I get 1.5.
Yeah, it's more than possible. All right, let's go to a game that is actually 2.5 right now, and that's SMU and Clemson in Charlotte, undefeated in conference opponents. Someone on this desk was all over SMU at the beginning here. Well done there, Vincenzo. Yeah. This is fascinating. By the way, I don't know if you saw the graphic that SMU's social team put out today.
I did not.
But they basically made Charlotte out to be Antarctica, which was interesting, but that's a different thing for a different time. Chris, you guys are on the opening numbers. You had some movement in the total that bounced around, but you're back to the opener at 55. You haven't moved to 2.5 all week on SMU.
Jeff, I don't have much action on this game, and I think it's
so
a
interesting
terrific game.
Yeah.
I personally kind of like Clemson a little bit because I give them a little bit of a home field edge. Now, my numbers, make it, pretty close to pick. And I know we've been on SMU a lot, mostly because of Vinny kind of pointed us in that direction. But not just pointed us. I mean, the team pointed us after the initial. Vinny probably got their foot in the door, but after that, it was all Clemson. I mean, all SMU. But I kind of like Clemson here. They're playing a little bit better lately, and they've been in these kind of games certainly more so than SMU. And I think the home crowd, I think will be a Clemson crowd. I kind of like Clemson in this game.
You know what I think's good when I look at this number, and it's fascinating too when you think about it. It is the ACC championship game with name brand recognition in Clemson, and how successful a year that SMU's had. I have to believe that just because of geography, with so many folks, here for the road, I think SMU gets back tonight.
There we go. Yeah, there it is. I'm all in on this.
I have to believe that. So I think there's going to be support for SMU tonight.
Wait a second. Hold on. Then don't we have to go back to the SEC game and say that they're going to be all over Texas too?
Vinny's been hanging out at the Pendleton bar all day. I know he's not showing it.
Listen, you have to keep your ears open to what's happening, right? And you have to, you have to pay attention to what you're hearing and seeing. But I'd be surprised if there's not support for SMU. I'm not saying they're going to win the game. I'm just saying that I think it
gets bad.
They'll get bet.
I will tell you guys, I really like the ponies in this game because Clemson against superior competition this year has looked very average.
You look at
the three losses, who are the three best teams they played this year. Georgia played them tough for a half. Georgia destroyed them in the second half. Louisville,
pace,
really just beat them easily, and like
the team that had a lot of close losses.
Pace. And then last week, which is a mega rivalry game, where Clemson had the better of that game for a good chunk of it, but ended up losing at home to a team that, quite frankly, I think should be ranked where Alabama is, but that's a different discussion for a different time. I think this just continues the trend that Clemson doesn't play up this year. They just beat up on bad teams. That's why I like SMU in this game.
You hit on a key point, pace. The pace of that Louisville game, I can tell you this. This SMU team has got more pace than Louisville.
Yeah, and they're better, too.
If I don't need anybody in this game, there's no way I'm rooting for Clemson.
Chris, I'm with you, too.
I'm not a Dabo guy.
I would, and you know what? This is for the power conferences here. We've been through 3 to 4 of them. We'll hit the last game, which is obviously the Big Ten. The favorite in the Big 12 game is the team that was in the Pac-12 last year. The favorite in the SEC game is the team that was in the Big 12 last year. The favorite in the ACC game was an American Athletic Conference team a year ago. And here you go. The last game, let's go to it. The Oregon Ducks are favored by 3.5 over Penn State. Somehow Penn State, thanks to the shocker last week in the shoe, here at 11-1, a Pac-12 team a year ago is favored to win the Big Ten championship, Chris. And this is 3.5. You guys touched 3 for a little bit and then went back. I'll say this. I shouldn't have blinked. Shouldn't have blinked yesterday. I think Oregon, sorry to say this, Chris, I think Oregon runs Penn State out of the building.
Well, let me just tell you right now, and I say this all the time. Power ratings give you a place to start.
Yeah.
That's all they do.
Yeah.
My numbers come to Oregon 3. But as I'm penciling down, last week when I'm making my numbers, I look, man, there's no way I wouldn't lay 3 in this game. 3 just looks a little too cheap. Now, I don't know about 5 or anything like that, but I knew 3 was just too cheap in this game, and I've been kind of proven right. Although, excuse me, I've had some pretty sharp guys come in and take the 3.5. I mean, where I told you Clemson, I have almost no business in that game. I got a ton of business on this game. -3 and 3.5, and -3 plus 3.5. But I think it's going to continue to go up. And I don't know if you have my money lines there, but I jacked up the money line. I think I'm running the highest money line in town on this because, listen, I love Penn State. They kick off, I'm rooting for Penn State. It doesn't matter who I need. But up till then, I have a job to do. and my jaw would say, I think Oregon's the right side.
So real quick, the money line point you just made. Yeah. You are the highest in town, but it is also it's more compact than it was even yesterday. Okay. It's mostly, or you're minus 185 money line. Most of the city right now is minus 180. Okay. So it's really compact.
So I'm not crazy with the money line, but
no, it was. I mean, it was minus 175. You're 10 cent different now with a 5 cent difference, so negligible now.
I'm not all in on Oregon, but I think that's the right side. I just do. I hate to say it. I hope my daughter's not listening.
Bear in mind,
I'm sure she isn't, by the way. But I do think that Oregon's the right side.
Bear in mind that this game at 5, and that's like the point for both of these 5 o'clock games, the Clemson and SMU and Penn State, Oregon. There's carryover going to it. And, Jeff, we touched on it yesterday as well. Remember that last night's game
got it
going for the NFL, but it got it going for these games too. These are intertwined. So, we've got 6 teams on a bye in the NFL this week, but we've got these playoff games that are going to be, they're going to be bet very heavily, and there's carryover going to these. And as we get further into the day, certainly that's going to impact some of the numbers, some of the movement anyway.
This result in the Big Ten game is the one I'm most fascinated with, of what the effects for the rankings, the final rankings that come out on Sunday will be. If Oregon rolls, like I think they will, I'm curious to see what the committee does with Penn State versus Ohio State in that scenario. Yeah. Where Ohio State was 8th in the bracket, they were 6th overall. Penn State was 3rd. But the 5 seed in the bracket, because of the way that it breaks out, I just wonder if that head-to-head win for Ohio State pushes them ahead of Penn State when it's all said and done. And quite frankly, to Oregon's case, I'd be pretty ticked off if I had to play Ohio State in my first playoff game if I was Oregon.
If they lose this game, you mean?
No, if Oregon wins. There's a realistic shot if Oregon wins.
That they're going to play.
The committee could keep Ohio State at 8, and then it's 1v8 in the Rose Bowl. Which could be.
So who would the 5 play? Would play
5 would 5 would play the 4. So so entering this weekend, Penn State would play Arizona State in Happy Valley. Which good luck to Arizona State trying to do that. And then Penn State would line up and play Boise the next week, which is a heck of a lot easier than having to play Ohio State on a neutral. Weird quirks with this first go around.
That's where I think the
reseeding needs to happen.
The reseeding will probably. I think take place before an expansion.
I agree with you, Vinny.
Well, let me just say, SMU thinks Charleston. Where are they playing at?
Charlotte.
They think that's Antarctica. Wait till they go to Columbus. I want to say that's. I'm rooting for all these Southern teams to play up north.
Well,
every one of them.
Chris, the one thing, even though I didn't like seeing Alabama in the bracket right now, I don't think they deserve to be there personally.
I don't either.
But if you tell Alabama, all right, you can go.
Yeah.
But you have to go play in South Bend on Saturday night.
Or Columbus.
Or Columbus.
Yeah.
Or
Penn State.
Or State College.
Yeah. Let's
okay.
See what you got.
See what you got.
Yeah.
Who do you think if you don't think Alabama belongs in?
I think South Carolina. If I were to do it the way that I would want to do it,
South Carolina.
I would go off current form.
Current form
with resume, which would put me with South Carolina in. And if you're Lane Kiffin right now, all I'll say is, who's been whining like crazy this week, all you had to do is beat Kentucky at home.
That's right.
And if it didn't matter you lost to LSU in overtime, it didn't even matter you lost to Florida. If you just beat Kentucky at home, Ole Miss is hosting. Forget being in the field. They're hosting round 1.
Well, that's why also there's going to be teams that do not make the playoff that have a higher power ratings than some teams that are going to get
power ratings right there.
And I could tell you that Bama would be favored over South Carolina.
They'd be favored over Tennessee, who's a lock at this point.
Over Tennessee as well. Yeah. So, I mean, again, I'm not on the committee, but that's where things wouldn't be bad to have. Put Jimmy on the committee. Where is he?
Jimmy's here.
Oddsmaker on the committee.
So,
I disagree with almost every guy I know in Las Vegas.
Okay.
They all say, kind of like what Vinny says, the bookmaker should do, I don't.
You don't want that responsibility.
No, not that I don't want the responsibility.
No, just be on the committee to say.
I don't want to be anywhere near.
Really?
You guys make the games, we'll make the numbers.
Well, we do that, of course.
I know.
We're going to keep
I would
doing
leave
that.
it like that. Yeah, I know. And I hear all my, we should be involved. They should go by our par writings. Nah, no, they shouldn't.
All right. Those are the college games. We talked a lot on 9 games there. Did about an hour.
Important games.
They're great. Look, I can't wait for the college football playoff in 2 weeks.
Oh, man.
I mean, that is just going to be so tremendous in every which way on that. All right. We're going to take a quick break. I'm actually going to step off the set because we only have 3 chairs in here.
Know, yeah.
So Jimmy Vacarro is going to hop in. You get Bookmaker Central here. Jimmy, Chris, and Vinny when we get back. And then we're going to be talking NFL after that right here on Football Frenzy on Sports by the Book.
South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, 777s, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
What happened?
We're on.
We're back.
We're back.
We're back. We're on the air. We're live, Chunt. So, Jimmy, you can look at the cameras.
A 3 shot here, 1 shot on you.
Good-looking guy right there.
You have your own camera. How's that?
Only one?
That's
It's only right, yeah.
But no.
No, you got 2.
You have 2,
There's
3.
a wide shot and you.
Look at you.
All right, a little bit of bad news. Where's our guys? Is he coming in here? The one
We'll
was
be
just
back.
here?
We don't have room for
Well,
him.
where's he at?
You want him to sit on your lap?
No.
What do you?
Well, I got to tell you what I read.
Okay.
I'll tell you. He get
He
here.
lost the bull riding contest by 1/10 of a second.
Oh.
That's why he's not here. He left. He said he wouldn't do it.
Bruised. What do you expect?
Well, he said, listen, Jimmy, he says, I was jabbing that bull, and that he just jumped way up there, and that's the only time I lost, 1/10 of a second. But
How many times have you gone to the rodeo since it's been here, Jimmy?
what rodeo?
There you go.
You know what? Let me
Now,
throw
give
this
us a
in there.
little rodeo history.
Let me do this because I like to find out where things came from, especially because I don't know anything. And where they say something, it's interesting. Down with the NFR, the National Finals Rodeo, and none of us here knew in 1959 that that's where the rodeos were, naturally because of Texas and everything else. So 84, it was brought here with the help of a guy we know, Mr. Michael Gaughn. And then they did pull a little bit of a blunder. They just wanted to like people to own ante up. How far do we have to go to bring this rodeo to our state? So there was a big fight about that for a while. And matter of fact, I think they went to Texas for the year.
They did, yeah.
And but they found out that Michael Gaughn was right. I think it only lasted 1 year in Texas. Then it came back here, and you two jump in her. This looks like a Super Bowl for 10 days here.
Here in this
Yeah.
casino, this hotel, yeah.
Yeah.
I have never seen anything that, I wouldn't use the word whatever, clumsy or whatever, but it's just incredible what they're doing, and they still got another week of this. So, and again, Michael doesn't stick his finger in there, who knows where the thing might have been.
Well, the benefit, Jimmy, you're 100% because it's one of the biggest events of the year for Las Vegas. But it's not just that because it's such a big event. It reminds me of when we had the big fights years ago, because even the host property obviously did a lot and benefited greatly by the event being there. But the fact that the rodeo's here in town, it's not just about the South Point. It really transcends and helps the entire city. I mean, the ripple effect economically, is enormous, and we see it, and that's why it's such an important event to have here.
Well, and I mean, it does benefit the whole city, but it really benefits us here. This has become rodeo central, and you could see the display case with a lot of wares for sale as soon as you walk in the door. But go up to the exhibit hall.
Yes.
It's like the mall.
Yeah, and when they're coming down that elevator, escalator, whatever, it's like about 4 or 5 minutes. They just keep coming.
Yeah, and then we got horses stationed here and bulls stationed here, and it's just a great event. I got to tell you. So besides Michael, Ryan Growney, Frank Todio, obviously involved in a lot of stuff. Steve Stallworth and his crew. Yeah, they all do a terrific job. But they've really made this place what it is.
Obviously, because we've been around now for quite a while, we've seen the growth of little town Las Vegas, Nevada. But it's still a business, and what I mean by that is the commissioners, whomever it is, they have to keep thinking of ideas too to keep, because if you're behind the 8 ball anymore, well, you're going to pay the price. But these guys are on now. The race was here just 3 weeks ago, and naturally this thing was here, and it's just amazing the power of it. Now, whether you like them or don't like them, then that's your call. But I have never seen anything that fulfilling real quick. And as Chris just said, it's great for the city, and it's great for the people who work for the city. There's no doubt about that.
Now, Jimmy, along those lines, speaking of great events, give us your take on these playoffs, these college play. How important and how good are these? I mean, obviously these are conference championships, which are playoff games, but we're going to have the 12-team playoff. How important, in your opinion, and what's your thought on how great these are going to be? Well,
I sent this sheet out about 2 hours ago, but I didn't. I just put what you call the high volume games in here. They're going to draw attention. But nothing's going to be like some of these games we see here, which are great marquee games, marquee madness for everything else. I'll make both of you a little bit of 15 cents or $15. In 2 to 3 more years, there'll be more teams for this. That's
what I've been advocating.
It's a monster. It's a monster waiting to happen when you get Oregon playing Texas and Texas playing this guy and whatever. And it's driven by the people who come in there and play here and obviously covered here, whatever. So, and college football, you two give me your opinion on that. I've always said, not that I pick all the winners, believe me, but going back even 15, 20 years ago, and you could just see from that moment. Remember, we always tell the story, and I know you're right with me on these numbers here. Used to be way back when the NFL would draw $3, the college would draw $1.
Sure.
It was 3-1 for a long time. Then they started doing things and reaching out, whatever. Then some of these things, and you can see what this thing is. This is a monster waiting to happen, an absolute monster.
Yeah, it's all in the last couple of years. It's been 1-to-1.
Yeah.
Now the course of the year of the NFL surpasses it because they play a longer schedule, then they play the playoffs, and they got the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So over the course of time, they're going to beat the colleges. But you take Saturday in October versus Sunday in October, they're just about the same.
Yeah, with what are we about 10 to 12 billion a year now statewide, and you figure that 60% of it is football, and it's almost 50-50. I think the Super Bowl puts the NFL ahead, Chris, like you mentioned, the single most wagered event of the year. But these games are going to these games this weekend are going to really set the table for the 11 playoff games that are coming. Will be as big. Would you agree, Jimmy, that we'll book them and they'll be bet like NFL playoff games?
Oh, not even close. Yeah, absolute monster. Yeah. And I'm looking at Penn State and Oregon, and the thing that I truly like about this more than anything, it's just you get these two teams playing each other who have never played before, and they wouldn't have played anymore anywhere else because they, Penn State and Oregon. Now that's a big monster game.
Yeah.
And they get bigger and bigger. So I enjoy it. Like I said, we were around here when it was exciting, when it was like, okay, what can we do a little bit extra? Well, we don't need that much extra because they're lined up here to come in here and bet their money. And we both said, three of us have all said this, because I laugh at the people who try to at times throw cold water. Is that the soprano tie? Throw cold water on it?
There's a
lot of guys tried to throw the cold water on it.
Yeah.
But we kept telling them, no. A tournament with the college will be a monster. No. Well, tell these knuckleheads now, who was right.
I can't believe it took them that long to figure it out. I really, maybe at the time we were probably saying we were 12.
Well, I think the interesting part, too, guys, is remember, I think there wasn't the 4-team playoff schedule for another couple of years before they just found, listen, we have to do this a lot quicker. Yeah. Because there were so many more teams that really could have qualified in the last couple of years. So, you know what, credit college football, credit the committee for that, for recognizing that. And again, I think, to your point, Jimmy, I think it's only a matter of time before it does expand.
And there's not too many disappointments. What do I mean by that? I mean, going back 30 or 40 years, there was maybe one or two monster teams because the other schools didn't spend money to bring people in. They didn't do a lot of things. And it showed in a lot of the – now, let me look at these games. Now, you're going to tell me we can win them all? I mean, it's just
I'd just like to cut this field down to 4.
Yeah.
Cut this field down to 4. All these other teams, you're out. Mm-hmm. You're out.
Wow.
Sorry, that just wouldn't be fair. It's not fair to the kids. It's not fair to us as fans. It's just unfair, period.
Mm-hmm.
It's good for business.
Well, it's another way of showing that, we were right and you knuckleheads were wrong. And you know me at 79 years old. See, I can say that stuff because it doesn't mean anything to anybody except me. And what are you going to do, throw my ass out of here?
Never. All right. Jimmy Vacarro, ladies and gentlemen.
See you later.
All right, we'll see you upstairs, gents.
We'll take a few minutes. We're going to take a quick break, or are we going to come live? We're going to do the live switch.
Break.
Let's do a break. We'll be back. More sports.
South Point offers all the types of entertainment you'd expect at a first-class Las Vegas resort. Did you know our 400-seat showroom is one of Las Vegas's top destinations for live entertainment? Enjoy live performances by classic Vegas entertainers, bands, and today's hottest comedians, plus a rockin' dance floor. You can also enjoy live entertainment at the Grandview Lounge, where you'll feel all the vibes of old Las Vegas. Enjoy the music, and if you love to laugh, don't miss The Dirty at 12:30, our very own free comedy show. Every Friday night at 12:30 a.m. in the Grandview Lounge. The Dirty is 100% free, so arrive early. Go to southpointcasino.com or call the box office at 77136 for today's performances at the showroom and the Grandview Lounge. When you're ready for your favorite cocktail, stop in and unwind at one of our 7 specialty lounges. There's a bar around every corner, because you're in Vegas, baby. South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Welcome back in the hockey shift of Jeff Parles. Always. No one better than Jimmy. No one better
He's
than
the greatest.
Jimmy. He's the greatest. We love that he first off, it's great that he was able to find a joint down here, for one, right?
He might have stayed since yesterday's show. Might have stayed overnight.
But it's always awesome to have Jimmy in. Vinny Magliulo's here. Chris Andrews is here, of course, running the joint here at the South Point. We if you're tuning in for the first time today and you're like, wait a second, where the heck are these guys? We're just at Studio B. It's rodeo weeks here at the South Point. There's content being made out of our usual home upstairs in the studio. We're very happy to cede the territory to.
I was going to say, we didn't abandon it.
Yeah.
We let some others who.
The Cowboy Channel's here.
Yeah, it's a Cowboy Channel, exactly.
Right, we accommodated them.
Absolutely. So that's why we're down here. That's why this looks different a little bit today. But Chris has the cowboy hat. Vinny is well dressed as always, and I'm wearing a polo because it's 10 degrees warmer in here than it is in the studio upstairs.
No kidding. Wow.
It is. Nice.
Usually heat rises, right, guys? All right, let's go to the NFL. And let's start in Minneapolis. We discussed, if you want to tune back after we're done here today and listen to our thoughts on last night's game. We did that at the beginning of the show, right at the top. So if you want to go back and watch that when we're done here, go for it. But if you're looking for those thoughts, that's where those are.
All you have to know is that it fell 3.
Yeah, it fell 3, and Vinny was very happy about it.
Thank you.
And he was very happy that I mentioned it twice yesterday.
Right off the jump.
Well, let's start with one that's actually moving in on a different key number now, and we start in Minneapolis, where the Atlanta Falcons are still the Atlanta Falcons at their core, guys. It looked like the division was wrapped up, and since the second win over Tampa, the Atlanta Falcons, who, by the way, are still technically in first place in the division, have beaten Dallas by 6. Not convincing. That was a game Prescott got hurt.
Right.
Lost to New Orleans, terrible team. Got clobbered by a reasonable Denver team. And lost a game where they gave up no offensive touchdowns last week against the Chargers. Because Kirk Cousins was awful last week.
4 interceptions.
4 interceptions. Cousins has now gone... You're going to like this, guys. Cousins has now gone 3 straight games without a touchdown pass.
Wow.
And he's thrown 6 interceptions in the process.
You're hearing Pennick's name.
Yeah, a lot.
And you know what? I think it's justified at this point. And I'll just throw this out there. We've seen 2 older quarterbacks off of Achilles tears come back this year, and they're shells of themselves.
Yeah.
Obviously, Rodgers, the other one in New York. And Cousins, I mean, look, we said it after week 1 that, boy, if Cousins is going to look like this, Atlanta's going to have a lot of problems.
We did say that week 1, right?
Week 1, because he left the pocket one time against Pittsburgh. He didn't run a single under-snap play, didn't run a single play action. It was pretty easy for Pittsburgh. And then the next week, they go out and beat Philadelphia, which looks like a pretty amazing win right now.
That's the NFL.
And it's like, oh, everything's fixed. But look, they're not the same team. They go to Minnesota. Chris, the Vikings did it again. Found a way to win a game they had no business winning last week, trailing the whole way. They're down 6 late. Sam Darnold engineers the winning drive. They get a stop at the end. They win by 1. They don't get the money, though. Arizona covered all numbers. But I'm going to be on it again. As bad as Atlanta's looked, I'll very happily take 6 full points with the Falcons, which is where this is at right now.
Yeah.
And, of course, this is the Cousins return game as well.
Oh, yeah, right. Now, really, I was I made the game 6.5.
Okay.
Boy, Cousins really looked bad. But like I said earlier, that's the NFL. This Atlanta team beat Philadelphia week 2. These kind of things happen every week in the NFL. Not for the last couple of weeks, Vinny, where it's not come true. Woo, we could use a few
parody.
Yeah, we have not seen parody. But I do think we're getting to where the numbers should be right now. But, we're at 6 right now, Jeff. Is that correct?
That is
That's
correct.
where I left the office. I think that's the right number. And if you bet if you bet Atlanta, I'm sure I'll be rooting for you.
We thought that Minnesota might stumble.
I've been saying it for a while.
Weeks ago. But you know what? And they accomplished something that's very difficult in the NFL. They won 3 straight road games. Typically teams don't play 3 straight road games. They might play 3 out of 4 games on the road. But remember, Chris, it was always a big deal. We always look for that. That teams playing 3 in a row on the road, and that 3rd game is a real bad spot. Well, they overcame that, and then they just keep. And they've got 10 wins now.
Yeah, they're 1 game behind Detroit.
They're right
still in a
behind
way.
the Lions, who have to continue to win to keep pace. I have to tell you, Darnold is playing better than Cousins, and the fact that Pennick's name is being mentioned. There's definitely we're going to need the Falcons. Maybe this is the threshold to buy back that we'll get money on the Falcons, but I can tell you this, that the way the trend has been in the last month, especially as Chris pointed out, there's going to be money line parlays and teasers to the Vikings here. So even when buyback comes on the Falcons, we're going to need the Falcons in this game.
For Darnold, he's going to get paid a ton of money next year, whether it's Minnesota or somewhere else, because now the Vikings, actually, if they really want to, they could give Darnold a 2-year contract extension, pay him a boatload of money, and say, JJ, let's sit on the bench and let's learn.
I mean, it'd be the worst. It's proven to work out well for a lot of quarterbacks.
Yeah, I would actually say that's a smart thing to do if you're Minnesota
at
this
too.
point. We'll see how that all plays out.
But Darnold might want more years, thinking that he's deserving of it, and his agent will push for more years and more money, right?
That's the complex thing of the of it. He could get, he could legitimately get 2 years, $70 million right now, or he could get for 125.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold, that money kind of crazy, but he's been awesome this year for the Minnesota Vikings. By the way, Kevin O'Connell, I know there was a segment of people who remember when this was 2 years ago. Where Minnesota won the best record in NFL history in one-score games until, of course, they lost a one-score game in the playoffs. This team's much better than that team. And I just wonder if there's some people out there that can't get that, even though, look, it's a different quarterback, it's a different defensive coordinator, which might actually.
His defense is better than.
Well, his defense is, it's night and day. This defense is actually, good, at worst, top half, probably closer to top 10. That defense was the second worst defense in the NFL that year. And they just kept winning close games. I just wonder if there's some people that haven't gotten over that and they're seeing the same thing they saw 2 years ago again.
Time moves quickly.
Chris, I'm with you. I think it's nonsense.
I think he's a hell of a coach.
I agree with you.
I really do.
That Coach of the Year race, by the way, is one of the most interesting Coach of the Year races ever. Campbell, by the way, is odds on after last night, which I'm not sure if that's right.
I'm not sure either.
But if he goes 16-1,
he's
it's
in the conversation right. He's probably the leader in the clubhouse.
To be honest with you, if I had a vote, unfortunately I don't, I'd vote for Chris's guy.
Mike Tomlin.
100%.
Right in there,
100% would vote for Tomlin.
Everybody, every wise guy in town was telling you they'll never. This is the year Tomlin won't.
Nah, he's already over 500.
He's already over 500.
He's already good.
By the way, we'll go back to this later, I'm sure, how hard the Steelers' schedule was down the stretch. And I kept telling me, we don't know how good these teams are.
Right.
And Cincinnati turned out being terrible. Cleveland is terrible. We didn't know that.
We also didn't have Philly as the second best team in the NFL at this point. So
when they lost to Atlanta week 2, absolutely we did.
By the way, Sirianni in that conversation, given Philly success this year?
I think Sirianni has maybe unjustly, but no.
Maybe unjustly.
Because the narrative has gotten so out of control on him. And
although we'll get to him, right? But
we'll get to the Eagles. We'll get to the Eagles.
A lot of games to get to, boys.
So we can be quick on this one, Chris.
Okay.
New Orleans goes to the Giants. The Saints favored on the road. This is a Darren Rizzi return game from Oradell, New Jersey. There, Vinny.
Very good.
See, there we go. Saints are 4.5. Taysom Hill's season is over. He tore his ACL last week. The Giants will start Drew Lock again, which, okay, well, why do we even bother with DeVito in the first place? I have to imagine DeVito is healthy at this point, even if the Giants are claiming he's not.
Well, they paid Lock $5 million.
No, well, Vinny, I get it. I don't know. You guys are market low, by the way, on this game. It's mostly 5 or 5.5 now in New Orleans. Now it's 4.5 on the Saints here.
Home dog to a road favorite.
You know it. Didn't work last week.
Uncle Jack had a bad week. But again, you're looking for many, many years of results and not just 1 week. And I don't know. I got it 4.5, and if they bet me, I'll move it, Jeff. What can I tell you?
Yeah.
Yep. I think this game goes up. It's going to be it's an ugly game, but there'll be action, and at some point there'll be I think there's going to be support for the Giants in this game.
Oh boy, the Giants did cover on Thanksgiving. Somehow. I don't know. Chris, I'll go with your thing. I was thinking this the whole way on that. It was a bad week for Well, granted, Seahawks went off as an underdog, so they didn't end up counting. And they ended up winning outright because the Jets are the Jets. But this kind of feels like the perfect one for that to rebound, where New Orleans isn't any good.
Yeah, come on. How good
I mean, like New Orleans is almost pushing a touchdown at some book or 6 at some books. Come on. I mean, that seems kind of ridiculous.
A lot of guys on both these teams
a lot of injuries.
trying to save their jobs.
Yeah, no, you're right. A lot of injuries too.
With pads
very
and
quick
without.
story here.
Please.
Back in the days when we used to write tickets, handwritten.
Handwritten.
Yeah.
The Saints were playing the Giants. The number was Pick'em. I'm looking at a ticket, the Science, SIANTS. And I remember looking at my friend John Flensky. Well, I don't care who wins the game. We have to mark this a winner. Otherwise, we're going to gaming and we're going to lose. Just mark it a winner. Seriously, the Science game.
We should do a show.
You should have found that ticket and kept it.
I should have kept that. Yeah, and little did I know, 45 years later, I'd be doing a show like
That's
and have honestly, I swear to God, SIANTS.
We should someday. We'll do a show. We'll do a good segment on handwritten tickets.
I thought you were about to say actually that someone bought a half a point in the game, landed to tie a second.
No, we have that story.
That's
yeah.
Chris. Your treasure trove of stories. That's my favorite one.
And I swear, listen, unlike anybody else, I exaggerate a little bit. That is not one iota of exaggeration.
Incredible. By the way, I want to check in with the chat real quick. Little Big, Ryan, Jim, Vince, Jonathan, Gio, Roger Long, everyone's in there. They did vote already on the college football poll, which was who wins tonight's Mountain West game. Boise State got 62% of the vote.
62. Okay.
So I'm a little surprised UNLV actually didn't do better with the Vegas
me too,
crowd.
yeah.
And in the second one, Chris, we're going to one of your prop sheets of who will be the highest scoring team in the NFL this week.
Oh, yeah.
We listed the Eagles, the Bills, and the Bucks, who are at 5-1, 7-1, and 9-1 respectively. Or you have to comment with your vote if you're going off the board from those top 3 choices here.
Really, I made the Eagles the favorite because I think they deserve to be the favorite. So,
Vinny, what are the Miami Dolphins?
The Dolphins are 12.
Yeah, that's the play.
12. You're going against the Jets.
We'll get to that a little bit later, but that's I think
okay.
I hate to go chalk, but I mean I made the numbers, so I mean it's I think they're a deserving favorite, Philly.
Well, let's go to something a little bit different than high-scoring teams. The Jaguars and the Titans.
The Mac Jones.
Mac Jones is going to be starting the rest of the way. Trevor Lawrence on IR. There's no reason for him to come back week 18 after taking that vicious hit that knocked him out with a concussion last week.
I think he's going to have shoulder surgery.
He
as
is.
well, right?
The left shoulder.
Non-throwing
the left
shoulder
for surgery. Guys, this is not a big game for the purposes of being reasonable teams. This is a gigantic game, though, in the way of draft slots. Gigantic. Because whoever loses this game is going to have a really nice path to a top 3 pick at this point. And if Jacksonville loses, they will have the ultimate path to the number 1 overall pick at this point. Titans at home. This is more an indictment of the Titans at this point. Titans are 3.5 at home against Mac Jones, against this horrible outfit of a Jaguar team. And a lot of the market is now 3.5 juiced on the underdog. So this thing could climb down to 3, where it already has gone in some spots, guys.
I mean, I made it 3, but it's another one
Yeah.
It's one when you're looking at numbers. I always try. What's the next number? Is this going to 2.5 or 3.5? Well, there ain't no way it's going to 2.5. I can tell you that. So I made it 3. No strong opinion, but gun to my head, I'd probably take the chalk here.
I think they took 4.5, right? Originally, I think we opened at 4.5 on Sunday night, and then took the 4 as well. So, but I have to believe that there'll be money coming in on the Titans. Titans defense is not awful. Titans defense is actually pretty good.
Titans
keeps
got
them in the
last week.
Yeah, but their offense doesn't help them.
No, it does not. Well, Washington, to their credit. By the way, they ridiculous 6 buys in Week 14. What are we doing here?
This is the last bye week.
This is the last bye week.
So everybody will be playing for the rest of the way.
There's some fantasy playoffs, not ours, thankfully, which somehow my team clinched a bye in the South Point Studio one. Or not a bye, but clinched a berth already. Okay. Which, all right, well, Maybe we'll actually win one of these for once, but no one cares about that. Not even me for the most part. But, you're in a scenario here in this game where if there's a flat 3, I'll lay it with Tennessee. If we get back to the flat 3, I'll lay it. If not, you know what? I'll just, we'll have the arrangement to be able to watch games for a little bit on Sunday before the Cowboy Channel does their show on Sunday afternoon. This will be in the bottom corner. And I assume it will be in the bottom corner of your setup, Chris, where it's furthest away from everybody.
It's the top corner where
the top corner is where
I
the
put the
goes.
worst.
Okay, all right, fair enough. All right, let's go to Tampa. Hey, this was a Super Bowl matchup at one point.
Oh, my God, you're right.
I mean, we're talking 22 years ago now at this rate. But that's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Las Vegas Raiders. Of course, at the time, they were Oakland. That was Rich Gannon and Brad Johnson.
And they traded
Gruden.
John Gruden.
Yeah.
6 total interceptions in that game.
Dexter Jackson was the MVP of that game.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, good. That's a great trivia question, actually. So the biggest note in this game is that Baker Mayfield is banged up like crazy.
He is.
But
a warrior.
I don't know how Tampa managed to find a way after Carolina took the lead late in regulation.
Turnover.
Well, in the overtime.
Baker's QBR like 9 or something.
He did not play well last week.
One of the lowest QBRs ever for a winning quarterback.
Yeah, he did not play well last week. And he was battered and he got hurt mid-game, and Kyle Trask even saw 3 snaps. But here you are. You opened 7.5, Chris, and the bettors have taken this down. Yeah. Which, look, the last time we saw the Raiders, they should have beat the Chiefs, but the Chiefs found a way like they usually do here in 2024. Total's 46. I don't know. I'm staying the heck away from this game.
I mean, I thought it'd be 7, maybe with a totally healthy Baker, you could lay it. I mean, we're watching NFL games. I mean, this is why so many teasers are winning. I mean, 7 is a mountain to climb. You want to climb that mountain with a banged up Baker Mayfield? I don't know. I do think 7's the right number. I'm not going to jump in and say I love the Raiders, but I think 7's a very tough number here.
Well, Buccaneers can take control of the division, right, if they win this game, even though they lost both games this year to the Falcons, who have a tough assignment up in Minnesota. So schedule very much favors the Buccaneers here. And, of course, Evans being back has been a big boost for them.
Tampa's remaining 5 games. They're almost a touchdown this week against the Raiders. They will be an underdog next week in L.A. against the Chargers. But then they get Dallas, who's, even though playing better, still a mess. The Panthers, again, I mean, they were almost a touchdown on the road, even though Carolina almost beat them. And then they'll be a nice favorite against New Orleans.
Yep.
So it sets up nicely for Tampa to steal that NFC South back
and
win the division for the second consecutive, or make it, I think it'd be, going back to the Brady days, it'd be 3 consecutive now. Yeah. 4 consecutive. Yeah, it'd be 4. It'd be 4 consecutive. And, of course, the year they won the Super Bowl, they didn't win the division. So figure that one.
Naturally.
Yeah, naturally indeed, Vincenzo. All right, let's go to Chris's team. The Steelers host the Browns. Now, I want to ask you about the total first.
Okay.
Before we go into the side, which right now is toggling between 6.5 and 7. It's right now 6.5 with Pittsburgh. Cleveland and Pittsburgh played 2 weeks ago in a snow game that was a monster over. Then, this past week, both teams flip around, 79 total points in the Pittsburgh game. And then where did that end up in the Cleveland game? 73, right?
Yeah.
It was 41-32, 73. So we're back-to-back games of monstrous overs with these two teams involved. Now they're playing each other for the second time in 3 weeks. This opened at 41.5 and it now has been bet up as high as 44.5 and has come down a little bit. You mentioned yesterday, Vinny, with the potential weather that was bad earlier in the week. Looks fine on Sunday now.
Yeah, just cold, right?
Just cold, which neither of these teams are going to have a problem with. But I just wonder, recency bias could be abound here where people just come in on Sunday morning and hammer this thing over to a number that almost is unrecognizable to what it is right now.
Well, that's something about betting NFL. And, I have to respect the original move, certainly, because those guys who do the totals do their homework.
Yeah.
But I will say this, something you've seen, there's a lot of teams play 2 straight home games. Not that many 3, but a lot of them play 2. And you'll see them win those 2 straight home games. Now they go on the road. And oftentimes they're overpriced because of those 2 straight wins at home, and you see them go on the road, and once again, that's why the bookmakers do well over the course of time, Vinny, not the last month. But that's something, the recency gets played too much. And I think this is a case here. And I'm not really a totals guy because a lot of the totals, like I said, those guys do a lot of their homework. They have a methodology that's better than mine. But I would lean towards the under here because of the recency of the last 2 games for each of these 2 teams, I think has made this total look like a layup over. Looks like, how could you not?
It looks like a layup, 100%.
Looks like, they're going to win this in the first half. So I would, because of that and because it's the NFL, I would lean towards the under in a case like this.
So it's 44 now, right, which is up a few points. To Chris's point, which is very important.
You're actually at 43.5.
43.5, so it came back down. It was as high as 44.5. I think that speaks to Chris's point, because the reality is this: the Browns have been in shootouts, but they're giving up points on both sides of the ball. I mean, Winston, you know what? The kid he's an amazing athlete. Let's face it.
He's the most entertaining guy in football.
I have to tell you though, like every time that ball's in the air, you don't know if you don't know who's going to score, which team's going to score, right? And they wind up having to chase games, and that's why they're. I mean, he gave up 2 pick sixes. He had 171 yards going against him last week.
So real quick,
right?
And I got to tell you, it's this close to a third.
Yes.
So real quick on what you just said, Jameis Winston set an NFL record last week, I should say. He threw for 497.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And 4 touchdowns?
And four touchdowns.
For his team.
3 picks, 2 touchdowns the other way. There was 171 return yards. That 668 combined is the record in a single game by a single quarterback in NFL history, and I'm convinced that's a Cy Young wins record that's not getting touched anytime soon.
I mentioned something about that, and one guy had a hilarious answer to me on Twitter. He goes, "That was his Mona Lisa."
It really was.
I said, "Man, that is great. I love that comment." I should go back and credit whoever it was said that. That was hilarious.
The man is the only look. But Jameis is go ahead.
The thing is that I don't think either one of these teams really want to get into shootouts, right? They want to run. They want to run the ball, and I think that's where maybe it comes back to the mean, right, Chris, in terms of the total in particular. Now, the Steelers are going to get better in this game, as they have, and then when they got to 7, okay, it was a key number. But the public is going to be all over the Steelers in the quote-unquote payback spot. And, again, every money line parlay and teaser is going to have the Steelers in it. Yeah.
By the way, this is a brutal teaser week. Just throwing that out there. But this one,
Jeff, you love to mention the things that really.
I'm saying from my perspective, like
it's okay. A wound because I can see your salt shaker out and you're pouring it right in the wound.
But my point on that is this is 6.5. Like your best teaser position this week are all favorites. Which
surprise.
Yeah, so it's Minnesota. It's the last 2 games we mentioned with Tampa and Pittsburgh. We'll get to Miami in a second. There's not really any underdogs that make sense to be teased up unless if you're taking 19.5 with Carolina. But I don't know. I'm sorry. I know what I just did, not intentionally, but every favor will probably cover again for the 14th straight week, right? That's probably how that'll work.
Thank you. Or even better, that the teasers on both sides.
Yeah, there we go. That'll be what it is.
That's okay.
By the way, I like the Steelers in this game. I think this is.
They are not going to fall asleep after they got whooped 2 weeks ago.
The fact that they lost that, like they had the pretty awesome comeback, but still fell short in the end. Yeah. It actually, for this game, from a betting perspective, is actually better they lost that game because I think the focus will be higher, that they don't mess around and avoid the Tomlin special. We haven't had that yet at home this year. It's only been in that Cleveland game away from home that has been the closest thing so far. All right, let's go east in Pennsylvania, guys. Let's go to Philadelphia. I just want to say this. Eagles play the Panthers. On the Panthers side first, by the way, Philly 13.5-point favorites in this game. Bryce Young looks like a quarterback.
He's better since he got benched.
Ever since getting benched, And last week, Bryce Young was great, especially in the big moments. Led a touchdown drive that should have won the game at the end of regulation. Yeah. He also got totally hosed out of a touchdown at the end of the first half. I don't know what the replay review.
I can't remember that.
Thielen made that ridiculous catch at the back of the end zone, and the refs are like, we don't have enough evidence to overturn it, when everyone saw there was enough evidence to overturn it. But I'll just say this. For Philadelphia, from 12.5 to 13.5, I'm just curious because, look, they messed around against Jacksonville earlier this year, who was one of the worst teams in the NFL. They beat Cleveland by less than a score at home.
Lost to Atlanta.
I just wonder if this is another one of those games where they are playing at home against a subpar team, and you look up in the fourth quarter, and it's like, Carolina's been covering this game the whole way. I just wonder if it's another one of those, especially, again, 13.5 is super, super steep in the NFL.
My good friend Roxy Roxborough.
Yes.
I really started in this business and learned a ton off of Roxy, who, by the way, bought me a nice bottle of wine.
Yes, saw him at lunch today.
Yeah. I couldn't make lunch. I was too busy. But anyway, Roxy told me,
the other bottle of wine was consumed.
I would expect nothing less, my friend.
In an Italian restaurant, forget about it. But he told me, he says, these games with big favorites, you could not be in the game whatsoever, not have any chance of winning, and in the NFL, you could easily cover double digits. Mm-hmm. Now, on the old show I used to do, Jeff, that you and I with Gil, I would talk about diminishing returns.
Oh, yeah.
And the power ratings come a lot higher, but once you get past a certain point, you have to understand NFL coaches, this isn't college. College, they don't mind running up the score, and they want to put in the second and third teamers like James Franklin talked about last week. In the NFL, you're looking to win the game. That's what counts. Doesn't matter anything else. You win the game, you win the game. And this is a classic case of diminishing returns. Now, 13.5 is starting to get a little juicy. If you hit 14 that's got to be a take. And I have a feeling we're going to get there.
Yeah, 14.
You might not want to blink while we do get there, but I think we will get there. We'll flash it anyway.
If you get to 14, that's an auto take for me. Yeah, it's an NFL game. It's 14. It doesn't matter how bad the other team getting the points is.
It's about the number, not the team.
Yeah, that's again for Philadelphia. I think they're on level with Detroit. I really do.
You talk about Bryce Young playing better since the benching, which he has. Sirianni's backed off and letting the OC and DC do their job, and the team's responded so far. So we'll see how that keeps playing.
Philadelphia's had the best defense in the NFL the last month.
Yeah, they have.
And Jalen Hurts. Look.
Big Fangio.
Saquon has been amazing. He's going to win the Offensive Player of the Year. We know that. But Jalen Hurts looks like Jalen Hurts of 2 years ago, which was not a thing by the end of last year. There are plenty of reasons why that ship sunk last year.
There was a big disconnect there.
But Jalen Hurts clearly was not healthy by the end of last year also. And he's healthy again. He looks like the guy he was that led this team to a Super Bowl loss against Kansas City 2 years ago.
We talked about Vic Fangio, and he deserved it. A lot of guys think he should be Coach of the Year. But Kellen Moore also did a good job. We started off a little shaky, and they were wondering if he was going to be a good fit for this team. His job was probably on the line a little bit. These coaches are, they're looking, I'm talking about the head coach. Right. They want to save their job. And listen, you got to fire that guy, so be it. But Kellen Moore has really got this offense playing well, and a large part of that is he's figured out a hell of a way to use Saquon Barkley. No doubt. But but Hurts is playing as well as he's played for a while too.
Let's look at this next game, the New York Jets. Who
we have to.
Trust me, I don't want to do it either, Chris. 3-9 New York Jets, first team in NFL history to be favored in 9 of their first 12 games and have 9 losses.
Is that right?
Yeah.
They've lost every game.
Yeah, the Jets have been a favorite as many games as Buffalo has been this year. So that's all you need to know. They're finally not favored, thankfully, in this game. Miami's a 6-point favorite at home. Jets are going to be without Breece Hall and Sauce Gardner on Sunday. Looks like maybe very well season-ending injury for Breece Hall at this point. Miami, look, I think we know what the Dolphins are at this point. with a healthy Tua Tagovailoa. They hammer teams they're more talented than and better than, and they lose to teams when they have to step up.
Yeah.
Last week was the classic case. Green Bay, even though they only won by 13, that game was really never competitive last week on Thanksgiving. Now to get a Jet team who's limping in here as big of a mess as anyone in the NFL. I get why the bettors took the hook off. All right, you're just taking a number, but at 6, it would be a lean to the Miami Dolphins here to run it up on a stumbling, bumbling Jet team at this point.
I made a number 6.
Yeah.
But I think if you look at what's the coach's name, McDaniel?
Yes.
I think his record against winning teams is horrible. And I mean ridiculously horrible. But then you look overall, his record is pretty good. So what's that tell you? He beats up the bad teams. Well, this is a bad team coming in. So I did make the number 6. I won't go crazy over it, but I think this is a pretty good spot for the Dolphins. It'd be very hard for me to take the Jets.
So real quick, Vinny, before you hop in, because Chris just brought it up, I'll give you the exact number. Mike McDaniel is 3-14 against teams that are over 500 in his NFL head coaching
That's
career.
not very good.
That's not good at all because when you go on the flip end, he's 22-7 against teams under 500.
Right, well, that's
so he has been, as I've called them, they're the finesse bullies,
Yeah.
the Miami Dolphins.
It's a nice little tidbit to stick in your back pocket, fellas.
Where did you graduate college?
Who, me?
Missouri? Yeah.
2015.
Okay. So I think that's the last time the Jets won in Miami. I think they've lost like 8 straight.
All right, time to go to the
Let's
board
go the
here.
way back machine.
Time to go to the board here, Vinny.
This is I'm going to say they've lost at least 8 in a row in Miami.
2015. I will tell you about that 2015 season. The Miami home game in that rivalry was in London, so we might even have to take that with a grain of salt.
Oh, wow.
But Jets just finding ways to lose games. An organization that's going to go through a lot in the offseason.
So-
no doubt about it.
So the last time the Jets won in Miami was Rex Ryan's final game as head coach in 2014.
Wow.
Yeah.
A decade.
Yes.
There you go.
So you, as a college graduate, have never seen the Jets win in Miami.
Hi, Chris. I've seen a lot of things. Chris. Technically, as a high school graduate, I've never seen them make the playoffs. The last time they were in the playoffs was when I was a senior in high school.
Okay.
So it's been a rough.
How old are you now?
I'm 31 now.
Okay.
I was 17 when last time they were in the playoffs.
Wow.
So there you go. Don't like them this week. I can tell you that. You want to go to a better game? You guys good with that?
Let's go.
Okay. Arizona and Seattle. Second time in 3 weeks for these teams.
Good game, man.
So Seattle, every time I watch Seattle, I just like, really, this team's possibly going to win the NFC West?
They're in first now?
No, they're and if they win this game, they're in command. They're in total command if they
Correct.
win this game because they'll have a season sweep over the Cardinals, who, to be honest with you, look, this matchup 2 weeks ago flipped on to Kyler Murray, our horrible pick 6 that was thrown, and that really flipped the whole game. Arizona should have won last week in Minnesota and found a way to lose. Seattle should have lost in New York, and the Jets found a way to lose last week to Seattle, and the Seahawks took advantage of it. Now this game in Arizona is Arizona 3 with a total of 44.5, and to be honest with you guys, I think those numbers are right where they should be at this point.
Well, they laid to 2.5, right, Chris? Yeah. And so you have a situation now where Seattle's defense is playing better too, right? In the last, I would say over the last several weeks. Don't you?
At least the last 6 weeks, yeah.
So this is, if they can sustain their defense and Lockett can stay healthy because they're a completely different team offensively. When you look at him in the lineup and when he's out, I think he missed 2 games this year, and I think they lost both games. But they are playing. It's been such an up and down division all year, and whoever's been hot has taken over first place. And oh, by the way, most of the time it's been these 2 teams. So winner of this game is really going to, especially if it's the Seahawks. Seahawks win this game, they're in control of the division, given the injuries and the results that the Niners have had recently, and of course the Rams. As hard as they battle, they're under 500. So, and they've got a tough assignment this week, even though it's at home against the Bills.
This is a tough game. I mean, you look back at that last game, and I think it's hard to say they're going to play the exact same way, but I mean that was really
sluggish.
A sluggish game, but like a hard-hitting game, and that one interception, which was really a terrible
horrific.
Pass. Yeah, really kind of upset the whole rhythm of that game, and obviously greatly impacted the outcome. I don't made the Cardinals 1.5. I just think points are going to be very tough here. What's the total on this game, Jeff?
44.5.
Thank you, Vinny.
That seems a little high, doesn't it? But
They bet it under, by the way.
yeah,
So
again, I hate to resort to last game as like a blueprint for how they're going to play again. But that looks a little high. Vinny, you talked about the Seattle defense. I think it is pretty good, but I think the Arizona defense is pretty good too. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a totals guy. I hate to give out totals, but I think at 3, this is a one-way play. You'd have to take the dog.
Yeah, I'm looking for reasons to bet Arizona. I think they're the better team, but see, it doesn't matter if it's Pete Carroll or now it's McDonald up there. It doesn't matter. The Seahawk team just finds ways to win football games in the oddest fashion humanly possible. So
you're looking to take Arizona?
I'm looking for reasons to bet Arizona, but I'm probably going to stay off because
is it a solid 3 right now?
It is a solid. It is. Not really. You guys you're only 3 flat. Everyone else is 3 juice.
Always do that.
Yeah. So
juice to the dog.
Yeah, juice dog on this game, and there's even a 2.5 at one of the big national shops. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out on that. All right, now let's go to a very weird spot for Buffalo here. Cross country trip. After really, first off, snowballs are awesome. I don't care what anyone has to say. If you're going to complain about the snowballs, go complain about something else, or just go watch something else for that matter. But this is a bizarro spot for the Bills. The AFC East has already been won for the Bills. Mm-hmm. They already have the home game clinched in round 1 and probably round 2 at this rate. But they still have a shot to catch Kansas City. One more Kansas City loss.
With the tiebreaker.
One more Kansas City loss will put them ahead of them with that tiebreaker that Vinny just mentioned. But this is a weird spot.
Who do they play next week?
Next week, they go to Detroit.
Okay.
So it's a weird spot, cross country against a Ram team that I think is kind of, we know what they are. They're pretty average at this point this year. But the market's all over LA in this game, from 4.5 to 3.5. And you know what? I can't really argue with the market betting on the Rams in this game.
I made it 4.5, which once again is strictly a power rating number. But once you get into some of the dynamics of the game itself, the travel, what's up, what they did last week, Buffalo I'm talking about, what they did last week, what they need to do next week. Boy, I don't know how intensely focused they are on this game. And 4.5, I say it all the time, anything over a field goal, that's a mountain to climb in this league. It's hard to win by more than 3 or 3.5 in this league. So my numbers come to 4.5, but I could definitely see a play on the dog.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me, especially given the Rams with the receivers. Williams is running the ball well. I mean, but Buffalo's again, they get Milano back. Their defense is playing. Yeah. Their defense. That's another team that's really. They've had to reinvent themselves in terms of their personnel, right? I mean, they had a lot of defections during the course of the season between just guys getting cut, guys free agents and things. So they've shown their depth on both sides of the ball too. We talked about it with Detroit earlier. Total on this one's gone up, and it's not really surprising to me. They had they look at what Buffalo did in the snow last week. Now this is ideal conditions, right? Weather conditions. So it doesn't surprise me that and the Rams are going to have to probably be slinging the ball here. We know the Rams can score points. Yeah. So the total's gone up here too. But I could see if this game hits 3, that's when we'll get Bills money.
Yeah, I would 100% buy that. If it gets to 3, I think I would lay.
I don't know if we're going to get to 3. I'll tell you something else. Stafford has really impressed me this year. Yeah. And I know he's got a Super Bowl win in his pocket, and he faced some tough times in Detroit. But boy, he just looks like I admire his toughness this year. Let's put it that way. Which is not that I thought he wasn't tough, but this year I think he's really shown his toughness.
There's no offensive line in front of him.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Right. Yeah, he's shown his toughness more than I think any time previously in his career.
Let's keep it on the West Coast. I don't know what to do with this game that we're getting to. The Chicago Bears, who will get the post-Matt Eberflus bump potentially. Thomas Brown, who's gotten promoted more times than anyone over the last month.
What a trajectory.
What a rise, right?
Yeah, jeez.
For Thomas Brown, who's now the interim head coach after not even being the coordinator 3 weeks ago. They go to San Francisco. The Niners are battered injury-wise. We know this. They probably won't see Trent Williams again. We won't see McCaffrey again this year. Ayuk's been on the shelf for a while. They're even and Jordan Mason's also on IR too. So they're on Gaughan, who's their third running back. They're still favored by 4. There's a lot of 3.5 in the market. I really want to bet the Bears, but that goes under the category. Goes under the category of potentially you get what you deserve by making that bet if you bet Chicago here. Even though I wouldn't be shocked with the way Caleb Williams has looked the last few weeks, I wouldn't be shocked if the Bears won this game outright, honestly.
I love the Bears.
There we go. Yeah.
I think that the addition by subtraction of Eberflus, that alone, and I've been saying it all year, but I mean, I've been guilty like everybody else. You got to bet against the Super Bowl loser. And it's just, it's probably worked 25 of the last 30 years, and every year we say the same thing. I think this year's going to be different, and it isn't. But now I think, again, it's over 3. I think you get the bump with no Eberflus. The word is, and you don't know, you only read what these guys tell you, that he lost the locker room. This guy's coming in. Obviously, he's done something right because Williams is playing much better in the last couple weeks. And they've had a couple extra days for him to get his feet under him. And I really like him in this spot. I made the number 2, and even when I made that number, I thought, boy, there's just no way I could bet the Niners no way I could bet the Niners in this game.
Chris, this is one of the least bet Niner games that we've seen in a long time. Think about it. This kind of number's sitting there. I think it's more likely to come down, like you said, than go up. But typically in a Niner game, this game, first of all, would come higher, even with the injuries, but there's just so much uncertainty with and inconsistency with their play. Now, it's one of only 3 afternoon games. So, carryover will impact it and so on and so forth. But I do think that there's more of a likelihood this number comes down than goes up. So you're starting to see some 3.5s out there, Jeff, and I think that's exactly what we're probably going to see.
Caleb Williams hasn't thrown an interception in over a month.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, he's playing well.
He, again, broke that's total, right, Ryan? Yeah, broke the Bears record for most attempts without an interception.
Oh, wow,
so,
okay.
It's, again, these rookie quarterbacks. We haven't mentioned Jaden Daniels or Drake May at all this week because they're not playing. Same deal with Bo Nix. I mean, honestly, you've gotten all you could have asked for out of these rookie quarterbacks. Yeah. The four that have predominantly played this year. They've all been good.
They've all been good.
Who
are the 4 you mentioned?
Daniels, Nix, May, and Caleb.
Caleb Williams.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll tell you what, I really like Drake May.
Yeah, he's on the worst team of the 4.
I've been really impressed. I've always said there's 2 things, processing and accuracy. And it's hard to judge processing in a college quarterback because what they're looking at in college defenses is totally different than what they're going to see in the NFL. But so far from what I've seen, he can process quickly and he's very accurate. I really like this kid.
I agree.
Rebuilding team.
He's on a terrible team.
On a team that's awful, as bad as anyone in the NFL, in all honesty. All right, let's go to Sunday night. Chargers go to Kansas City. The Chiefs just keep finding ways, Chris and Vinny. Right now, we're sitting at Kansas City as a 4-point favorite in this game against L.A. Chiefs actually got bet up in this game. How about that? That doesn't happen much this year. 3.5 to 4 on this one with a total of 43 on the Sunday night game.
I love the Chargers in this game, too. Listen, Jim Harbaugh is a strange duck.
Yes, he is.
But that guy can win some football games. And let me tell you, he plays some great defense. And, you look at Kansas City, like I've always said, the best value is betting against them at home. So I think that number gets just elevated a little too much. I thought 3.5 was a good number. 4 is just a little too high. And to me, 4 is a key key number when you're talking about betting on a dog. And I really like, I want to say San Diego. I really like the Chargers in this game. I like them a lot. I don't know if they can win the game. I think they can. And listen, you take a 4-point dog, you have to think that they're going to be right there to win the game. But, yeah, I like the Chargers here.
No Dobbins, right?
Correct. Dobbins we won't see for a while.
For the Chargers. And again, Chiefs just keep finding ways, as you mentioned. I think that professionals will be interested in the Chargers in this game. I think this could be a pretty much of a pros versus the public game, and I think the public will be. Well, they've already laid the 3.5. So again, carry over. Look, that's no mystery, right? This is a primetime game on Sunday night, so we'll see how tomorrow and Sunday morning go. That'll an afternoon.
Is that you that was talking last night how Sunday is really like 3 separate days? Was that you saying that? One of maybe Jay, maybe
I think it was Jay,
maybe Cornegay says
but it has been.
Yeah, you got 3. You got the early window,
right?
Totally separate.
Yeah.
Then you got the afternoon window,
right?
Separate.
Totally separate. Then you got Sunday night.
Totally separate.
Totally separate. It's like 3 different.
But they impact each other.
They impact each
right?
other.
Yeah.
But it's like hey, we did great in the morning. Oh, geez, we didn't do so good in the afternoon.
And then the night was a disaster.
And the night, we need this game for a fortune. Where we thought we were even all week, and all of a sudden we need this for a fortune.
Well, again, the night game has come. The saying is, the G game. It's it's the gravy game, or the get out game, or the get even worse game. You know what I'm saying?
Every way you want to do.
Even worse.
And it's definitely happened because of that those factors.
All right, Monday night. This game couldn't get flexed out because the Simpsons broadcast on ESPN Plus.
Of course.
Is that right?
Yep. That's why we have Dallas hosting Cincinnati. I'll say this: the Cowboys have looked a little bit better the last 2 weeks. They've won 2 straight games.
Yeah.
And look, Cincinnati's
With more injuries.
Yeah, more. Yeah, it's
Both of these teams have injuries.
5.5 with the Bengals now, down from the 6. I don't know. I mean, how can you lay points on the road with this Bengal team and how awful their defense is?
They can't stop anybody.
Yeah.
They can't stop anybody.
And they just lost one of their better linebackers as well.
Yeah. I mean, Joe Burrow was the offensive player of the month for November in the AFC. And the Bengals were under
Did they win?
And they won win. They beat the Raiders. That's it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think I mentioned last week, Scott Kazmar, who's made his bones in this business analyzing quarterbacks. One of the things he says is Joe Burrow is not that good. And his numbers are great, but, and he had that 1 year where he took his team to the Super Bowl. But he thinks, as far as like a winning quarterback, he's overrated. I mean, he's good. I mean, he's not, Cooper Rush or anything like that. But he's just not as good as, like, the perception is.
This game here, I could see support coming in for the Cowboys as it has. I know this total is going to continue to go up.
Oh, yeah.
With these 2 teams. Yeah. I mean, with their.
What are we at right now?
49.5.
Yeah, you'll see 50. Yeah, probably by the time I get up to my office.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not going to be Monday before this total goes up. So
I'd only bet the over. Cincinnati's defense. We're talking 3 years ago. The Bengals are in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
In the Super Bowl, in part because their defense played well above their heads in that playoff.
Won at Kansas City.
Yeah, they won. Yeah. They won at Tennessee. It's funny in retrospect. They needed a goal line stand to beat the Raiders in the first round of that postseason. But the year after that, in their second AFC title game run, their defense handled Buffalo, and their defense made the biggest play of their postseason run, the 99-yard Sam Hubbard fumble recovery and return for a touchdown the other way that completely flipped that game on its head against Baltimore. So, but this defense is awful, beyond awful at this point.
And beat up.
And beat up on top of it. And that's how in a year where Joe Burrow probably has the second best numbers of any quarterback in the NFL, and you're heading for 6-11 because your defense is pathetic. And that's what the Bengals are here this year. So, again, there'll be a lot of AFC teams this year that go back to the drawing board and be like, boy, we really missed an opportunity here with Kansas City down, even though they have all the wins. Maybe a vulnerable Buffalo team when it's all said and done. And like, well, we missed some opportunities here. And Cincinnati and that team in New York are going to be the two leading the charge of Well, the Jets might just have to go back to the drawing board to start the franchise over, but that's a different.
I get rid of the owner.
Yeah, I wish, Chris. Yeah. I wish for sure. All right, before we go, Chris, what do you got this week, plays-wise?
Oh my God, I do have a couple of colleges that I like.
Well, you said you had 2 NFLs you like too.
I got 2 NFLs I like, but let me give you the colleges. I hate to say I like Boise State tonight. That's so. I'm going to go with Boise, and I like Clemson. I'd be careful with Clemson. I'm not crazy about them, but I do favor them. Boise, Clemson, and then the two NFL games. I like the Bears. I like the Chargers.
There you go.
I'll give you 4 in both of those NFL games with the dog.
Scratch me on Clemson. Just give me Boise.
All right, Boise will give you 4 because there's enough 4 in the market, even though you guys are at 4.5. Well, actually, we've even just seen a 3.5 in the Boise game.
Really?
Yeah. So
Tulane is solid. What, 4.5? 4?
Tulane at the moment solid at 4.5. There's 1.5 in Vegas, but it's basically 4.5.
That's pretty close. I kind of favor Army, but I don't know if it's worth taking that.
No. All right. That's a Studio B episode of Football Frenzy on a Friday. Chris, Vinny, thank you as always.
Good job, boys.
Everyone in the chat today active.
Thanks, everybody back there.
Ann, Jerry, Drew Dog, Ryan, Sean, Vince, Caden, wherever he may be. I don't know. Everyone involved.
Sean worked early today.
Sean was early. Everyone involved in this to make sure we're on the air when our usual home is being happily used by the Cowboy Channel the next few days.
Yeah.
We're happy we're able to bring these shows to you this weekend. Next week, we have a smaller card, so we might be starting a little bit later next week, but we'll keep you in the loop on that start time for next Friday. For Chris Andrews and Vinny Magliulo, I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you next time at 8 a.m. right here on this channel for Sports by the Book. This has been Football Frenzy.